Alright, testing. Hello everyone, my name is Yobel. This is my first stream attempt, or live stream attempt, where I'm on camera. Hopefully all the pieces properly working. Let's test out this cat camera. Does it work? It works! Good girl. Alright, well, I'm trying to do a lot of things at once here, so bear with me. This is basically a testing stream. The point is, I want to make sure everything that I've set up is actually functional. The point of my channel here is I want to do something a little different than what might be otherwise seen on these streaming channels. I am a professional photographer and videographer. I spend most of my time traveling to capture whatever content that I see from around the world. It's just one of my passions that I've turned into a profession. And as part of that, I have so much good content. I have terabytes and terabytes worth of travel footages, photos that I've taken all around the world. And I dedicated my time to start to create those content into something hopefully people other than myself can enjoy. Hence Instagram. That's where I started my journey, posting photos and then eventually getting into videography, and mostly short form for Instagram, so imagine the reels. And then from there I decided I want to keep learning how to edit videos in a longer form content format, which is where I jumped into YouTube. So that's been about 1.5 years, and I feel like it's so much fun. And one of the cool things is I have so much travel material, whether it's wildlife, cultural shots, nature shots, and it's been fun for me to kind of take some of those clips, find ways to edit it, put it all together and share it with people like yourselves. And now I figured, hey, if I'm sitting in front of the computer all day to edit, I might as well find a way to share that with you guys, just for anyone who's interested. Hence what I'm going to do now. So I'm in front of the computer as usual, and I spend a lot of my time on DaVinci. So again, bear with me as I figure out how to make all of this work. First thing I need to do is figure out how to get this Stream Deck to work properly. Alright, how do I... I'm learning how to make OBS work for me, not the other way around. Alright, so I wanted to do something on OBS where I need to create an editing scene. In the editing scene, I need to... I'm very new at all this, by the way, so if you couldn't tell. Okay, I think it's a screen recording, yeah? And now I need to switch it to what? Studio Display. Perfect. Okay, I think I got it. I gotta reduce the size here. Okay, hopefully that works. That's good enough. Okay, so like I said, the point of this is that I'm in front of the computer a lot of times when I'm not traveling. My day-to-day basically looks like I go out for travels, I bring all my camera gear, I have an idea in mind, which is usually just enjoy. I do a lot of wildlife. That's been my passion for the past, I want to say, 3 years or so. So the goal has been, hey, I travel to capture wildlife content primarily. And then when I'm not traveling, I'm in front of the computer having to, go through all the footages, figure out ways to share the footage in a compelling manner. And so that ends up being something that most people would find boring, which is I wake up, I sit down, and I just go through endless terabytes worth of footages to make content with. With that said, I don't find it boring. I personally enjoy it. And so I figured, hey, if I'm in front of the camera anyways, and I have all this set up for as I started getting into YouTube, so I've got the cameras, lights, everything. So I figured if I've got the setup already, why not also go live and record myself as I edit, as I go through whatever content. And if people are interested, perfect. If people aren't interested, that's fine. At least it's all being recorded so that I can share it or create future content with it, whatever works. So for instance, now I'm just going to open up DaVinci because I need to work on my next video, which is a trip to Mongolia, which I went February of 2024. So I've been working primarily in DaVinci Resolve to edit all my videos. I've used a few others like Adobe Premiere Pro. That was the first one actually that I tried using, and I failed miserably at figuring out how to make it work. it's just not intuitive for me, unfortunately. So I shifted over to the others. Let me... Alright, hopefully you guys can see this. Alright. This is DaVinci, and this is all the footages from a trip I went for about 2 weeks to Mongolia back in February 2024. And I've already spent the time where I basically went through all the raw footages. I do a concept called color correction so that it doesn't look so flat or grayed out. And then I did a little bit of grading so that the footages kind of have some color to it. And then I exported the clips into something a little bit more digestible for me to start going through and hopefully figure out a story. So as an example, let me see here. All right. One thing I'm trying to figure out is on YouTube, is YouTube working? You know what? We'll see. After this stream ends, I'm just going to review it, see what worked, what didn't, and then hopefully the next time it gets better, and so on and so forth. The biggest struggle for me has been just figuring out what are all the different plugins I need to use to actually make a stream work. And then do I have a strong enough internet speed? Is my microphone working? All the overlays. It's honestly a little bit overwhelming, so just bear with me as I kind of learn the ropes here. But if things are working properly, you should be able to see my screen, and including all the clips that I'm gonna have to go through. And this is my Mongolia trip, by the way. So how long of footage do I have here? So all the clips in its entirety is almost 9 hours worth of footage. This is, by the way, all the footage that I condensed. I kind of done a first pass through of just making sure these are clips that are of potential use, and then I've worked on them. Now I have to go through the process of taking the second step, which is drill into each of the footages, see what's worth using, what to keep, in order to hopefully make a travel vlog video that's going to be roughly 15 minutes, let's say. So that taking 9 hours worth of footage and condensing it into 15 minutes. It's not the easiest, and so if you've seen my YouTube channel, I started it about a year ago, and again, it was on this journey for me to start learning how to do long form content. It's very enjoyable for me, storytelling, or at least learning how to tell stories in a compelling way. And so I started with a trip to Uganda from about a year and a half ago. And it was, I think, 9 days that I traveled. You can see it on my YouTube channel where, as I was exploring how to make longer form content, I decided to make it episodic. So I split the 9-day trip into, I think, about 7 or 8 episodes. And that was just because I got lucky. Uganda's my favorite country I've been to. There's just so much to see and do there, especially if you're a wildlife photographer like myself. So each episode, I was starting to learn how do I condense a full day's worth of journeys into 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. And then as I got a little bit better, as I learned more, as I see what works, I realized, like, I think 15 minutes is a good, I think, on average, I think it's a good length for a YouTube vlog. You know, because if you make it too long, most people just, you know, don't have the attention span for it. And also, it's a good learnings to figure out how to keep shortening. How do you keep removing content versus adding it? I think it's, generally speaking, I'm very much someone who likes to add more, and it's tough for me to figure out how do I cut out things that I think are interesting, but maybe other people won't find it as you know, unique or engaging or whatever. So with that in mind, that's the process that I'm kind of undergoing as we speak. So my goal is, how do I turn this 9 hours worth of content into 15 minutes? I'm just kind of speed running for you guys. This is what that trip looked like. I'm really excited for this trip in particular. So this is why I wanted to figure out how to get live streams to work properly, because I want to wake up every day and, you know, go live as I work on this. So then you guys, again, I don't know if this will be interesting for most people, but for anyone who cares to follow me and enjoy the content, you're gonna follow with me as I edit this from its raw ingredients, as you're seeing here, into something that's a story that includes everything from what clips to use, the ordering of the clips, what is the scripting, what's the voiceover dialogue I need to incorporate, what's the soundtracks, what music or sound effects should I be using in particular moments to make each moment really hit. And yeah, then from there, it's everything from, hopefully, you know, as I continue sharing, I will obviously take on your guys' feedback, advice, yeah, and then see, you know, for you guys who stick around, you'll also be able to see how it went from the raw ingredients into the final form. And then obviously the final form I will be posting to my YouTube channel, to my Instagram, as I normally do. And, you know, you lucky few who decide to tune into this will also feel like, oh, that's how he made the final content. Hopefully the final content's good. And I have been increasing in my own confidence to just be a bit more proud of what I create. I'm still very much a newbie. I've only been in the video editing world for about a year and a half. I started mostly doing photography before I jumped into videography. So there's so much I'll probably be doing incorrectly, or I could be doing better, whether it's how I shoot or how I edit, everything in between. But this is the process. So you guys will also be able to see that process. All right, so with that said, let me just kind of share with you guys what you're seeing. So for instance, this is a clip from one of the days on the travel. So I went to like the most remote location in the world, essentially. There's this really remote nomadic region in Mongolia. So from Mongolia, you fly into a place called Ulaanbaatar, and then I took a domestic flight to the Altai region. And that's where I basically spent 2 weeks with a nomadic family. So there's a couple, the guy on the second to the left, I believe. And I apologize, I forget his name, and I'm hoping I have it written down somewhere, which will be useful for when I create the vlog. But I stayed with him and his wife in their winter house. So essentially, the nomadic people in Mongolia, they spend their lives on the move. So sometimes you'll have nomadic tribes or families who have anywhere upwards of like 4 houses for each season, and they bring all their cattle, livestock, everything. They migrate to the different location, and yeah, it's a simple lifestyle. They tend to their flock, their herds of everything from the yaks to the horses and goats, yeah, and make a living out of it. So I got to spend 2 weeks just kind of seeing their lifestyle, and from my perspective, filming everything and taking photographs. So a lot of it was pretty fun because in Mongolia, you have these nomadic people who are also eagle hunters. So traditionally speaking, that's how they survived in the wilderness. They would, I don't remember exactly how they do this properly, but they will trap eagles from birth, I believe. So I think it's like maybe they find like an eagle's nest, and then, or they take a young eagle, it's always female. They take like a female eagle and capture it and train it essentially to, yeah, live alongside them. Hold on, I'm hearing some alerts, and I have no idea how to check what those alerts are about, so I apologize. But anyways, let me just keep going as we go through this. All the alerts and notifications, that's like maybe something I'll work on next. The first thing here is I just want to make sure the stream actually is showing properly. Audio levels are fine, you name it. So a lot of my time I got to spend with these eagle hunters, and and we would go out in the wild. I actually got to travel with them as they went on hunts, and I got to obviously from my perspective, I love filming wildlife. I think wildlife photography and videography is definitely my favorite genre, and so the joy was being able to see these eagles fly, go out in the wild, get close up to them. So you can see, for example, here I got to film one of the things that they do with the eagles, which is this: they've trained them to come at command, essentially. So they had one of the eagles up here, and actually let me show you what I would do normally. So let's take this clip. By the way, I've been using DaVinci Resolve for about a year now, and like I said, there's probably so many things I could be doing better, but you know, you just incrementally get better at what you do. So for instance, here what I'm doing is I'm just slowing down a footage. Whoops. Let me do that properly. Yeah, that should be right. That wasn't quite correct. So normally I'm supposed to go here to change clip speed. So why is this not working? Oh, there we go. I don't know why that didn't work before. So essentially I filmed this originally at 120 frames per second. And so all that means is I captured really fast moving subjects with faster frame rates on the camera. And so every second of footage, there's essentially 120 photos being snapped. It's rapid, right? So what that means is that essentially I'm able to capture more motion across time. So then when I slow down the footage, if it was originally at 120 frames, I slowed it down to 20% of that original speed. And now I can actually see the footage in a very, very buttery smooth manner. So this is how you get these like cinematic shots. Normally you'll film in higher frame rates. So then when you slow down the footage, you don't get something very choppy. You'll get something like this, where it's very, very smooth. Hopefully the smoothness is coming across on the stream. But yeah, this is where I just settled myself. By the way, in terms of this shot behind the scenes, I was at the base of the mountain, and the owner of this eagle was basically next to me or just a little bit in front of me, and he called that eagle down the mountain. Usually what they do is for training, they'll have a piece of raw meat that they use as bait. And so then the eagle, with their sharp eyes, eventually will come over. In the meantime, I just have my camera ready, hopefully get the subject in frame, hopefully it's in focus. And in this case, I think I did a decent job, you know, no complaints. And yeah, it was honestly very, very cinematic because, again, you get to see this massive eagle. This is a golden eagle. I think they're one of the largest in the world. And a bit of a fun fact, apparently golden eagles, actually, I don't know to what extent this is true across most of these like predator birds, but at least with falcons and eagles, the female eagles are actually larger. So I think it's like significantly larger than the male counterparts. So from a hunting perspective, usually the females are the ones that they end up using. So yeah, things you learn. You can see the size it's just insane. You know, if at some point you see some of those footages where the eagles, I think there's some viral footages of like eagles grabbing goats or, you know, like full-on livestock, and they're able to pick them up in the air and then drop them to kill them and, you know, eat them. So yeah, you got to be careful around these guys. So anyway, so that's one of the footages. So you can see here I've got plenty of other footages, and again, my job every day is I have to go through all this, see which parts of this that I want to use, and how do I condense this into a shorter format. And then for the parts, you know, the good news is, you know, hey, it's up to me how I want to create content. So let's say I create a 15-minute vlog where I will do some storytelling, and sometimes I might have to create episodes. So Mongolia, I might end up actually creating 2 to 3 videos just to split up the content, just because you know, I experienced quite a bit while I was there, and it was all super interesting. I basically stayed there during one of the worst blizzards in Mongolian history, apparently, or at least in recent history. What was the stat? I think they said the blizzard ended up causing over 1 million livestock to die just from the cold, including the nomadic family I stayed with. One of their stallions froze to death, like literally like an ice block. I had the footage somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Straight up, just yeah, it was so freezing. It basically was negative 40 degrees Celsius, which I learned later on. Negative 40 degrees Celsius, essentially it's so cold that both Celsius and Fahrenheit said, you know what, we're just going to agree to disagree, and 40 is the same for both of us. So negative 40 is so cold, it's negative 40 in Fahrenheit, and it means the same thing in Celsius. And the outcome of that is, this is one of the horses. So yeah, this horse straight up froze to death during the blizzard, which is obviously quite unfortunate. So the nomadic, God, I need to look up his name. I should be able to find it again, but he basically had to hogtie this horse, hooked it up to his van, and then had to pull it out of his the pen. And the horse was frozen solid. It was literally, like, not that I touched it, but it's like a chunk of ice. So when he tried to drag the horse out, it actually ripped the fence with him, which is, it was just kind of an insane moment. But here, I'll be able to show it to you guys. Yep, just straight up took the fence with him. Mother Nature. So for me anyways, obviously I prefer filming live animals and wildlife, but at the same time, you shoot whatever you see. And so let me see if I can actually show you the blizzard itself. It was the coldest I've ever experienced. It was so cold, essentially my camera would freeze. It would just shut down because it was that cold. And before it shuts down, you would actually see, as I'm filming, on the screen, on the monitor, everything would start looking like what you see anytime in movies when they depict someone who's drunk, and everything kind of has like an echo effect, or it's a, like a lagging effect. That's essentially what happened to my footage. And then eventually, so my camera just gets drunk almost from the cold, very, very lethargic, and then it would just shut down, which was terrifying for me when I was there, obviously, because I didn't know. This is the first time I ever experienced cold to that effect, where my camera just completely shuts down that way. But it was fine, just needed a bit of warming up. Let's find, here it is. So this is what the blizzard looked like. It was insane. So this is right before the blizzard hits. So before the blizzard hits, the locals, they basically had to put these like little jackets onto the cattle and the livestock. It's essentially so cold that they had to create clothes for them as well. We can see here, it was very, very windy, and then everything starts kicking in. It's so cold, it's so freezing and windy, by the way, that it would literally even blow my camera. I'm holding the camera and I'm getting knocked over at times, which is why you'll see it's quite shaky at times, but we'll stabilize the footage later. And so this is the wife, this is the husband and wife. So they were basically doing last minute farmer duties before the blizzard fully kicks in. And when it kicks in, it really kicked in. It was kind of fun for me, but let me see if I can show you. Yeah, this is what it looked like, essentially. This is their dog. Super, super cool looking, by the way. Obviously, everything that lives in Mongolia, everything that's bred there, they're bred to survive extreme conditions. So even the horses are super cool. They're like these fluffy little cute things. So you can see these are the, what do you call young horses? Foal? Yeah, these are the juvenile horses, essentially. And they were out in the open. And here it gets even crazier. Yeah, this is some fun footage for me. So you can imagine I'm in the middle of nowhere in a field, also being hit with this crazy blizzard. But I really wanted to capture some footage, so I had my, I think it was my 400mm lens, and I just parked myself and decided until my fingers freeze off, I'm gonna film as much as I can see, including these horses that they're a bit skittish around me, I would say. So hence why, you know, they're like staring at me from a distance. And then when the blizzard kicked in at this moment, it was pretty awesome. Really tough to focus, so I learned a lot from this trip, especially around just how difficult it is to do what's called autofocus on a subject when it's raining or through the snow, because essentially the camera will see every individual snow particle that, you know, obviously the camera can pick up as it crosses each pixel, and because it's in motion, sometimes the camera gets confused and thinks that's the subject, so then the autofocus will oftentimes go between whatever you're trying to focus. Let's say in this case I wanted to focus on the horses, but then it might end up picking up the snow, the actual snow that's obviously closer than the horse, and so then it will just switch focus like that. I'm not saying it always happens, but it is it's a challenge you face when you're capturing these moments. So yeah, that was one lesson I learned from this trip, because I live in Dubai and it does not rain there ever, so I don't have a lot of practice with rainy conditions or snowy conditions to see what happens. But yeah, so that was part of the snowy conditions that we had to deal with. You can see literally the snow just cakes onto the animals. I had a really cool moment. I ended up creating some content for my Instagram based on one of these moments here. But essentially we were out during when the blizzard kicked in, so I got to actually film some moments when the eagle hunters were racing, essentially. So I had set myself up at a distance, and these guys, they were basically posing. I was getting some nice footages, and when the blizzard kicked in, we're like, okay, we can maybe survive a little bit longer and then we'll have to call it a day. So we took that time where essentially I got some nice racing shots where from a distance they came straight towards me, and obviously I was filming at the time, so then I can actually capture what it looks like. Let me show you. I have so much footage to go through. this is gonna be insane, but I will say the footage is really cool, so you know, it's not like I'm complaining. This is a good problem to have. So you can see here, same thing. I filmed this. I'm fairly OCD. I don't know if that's the right way to describe myself, but I am a bit autistic when it comes to how I organize, how I film things. So for instance, every bit of footage I have, when I export it into a more digestible format, I'll relabel them usually by the date when I filmed it, the resolution. So in this case, this is a 4K footage. I shot this in 60 frames, so I have it here, 60p. This was shot with my Nikon Z9 camera, and I shot in vertical mode. So I have all that in the actual title of the video. So that way I can go through and hopefully more easily figure out what I can do with the footage. So in this case, for instance, let's take this scene here. Okay, this is one of the coolest scenes I've ever captured, just personally, because again, I'm in the middle of a blizzard. Essentially, the blizzard's so insane, and with the wind, at times it literally just whites out the entire screen, like you see here. I filmed this at 120 frames per second, so like the other clip, what I'm going to do is I can actually reduce this to 20% of its original speed. And let's actually play it. So then you can get this really, really cinematic, slowed down footage. And that's, I think, one of the coolest tricks of being a wildlife photographer and videographer. Slow motion is your friend. So as much as possible, I try to shoot at a higher frame rate. So I've been able to work with 60p, 60 frames per second. And that's usually good enough that I can slow it down a bit to still end up with somewhat slow motion footage. But the ideal is trying to shoot at 100 to 120 frames per second. So like this one, this is 120 frames per second, which I've slowed down to essentially equate to a 24 frames per second video. So what in terms of the math, that essentially means I've reduced the speed to 1/5 of its original. The way you can figure that out is just 24 divided by 120. So that's where I reduced it to 0.2 of its original speed, or 20%. And that's what gives me this. It essentially allows me to capture the footage in normal speed, reduce the speed, and because there's so many frames that had originally been captured, 120 frames per second, I don't end up having missing frames inside of each second. Because I'm essentially taking my 120 frames per second video and converting it into a 24 frames per second video. So all that means is out of the 120, it doesn't need to use all of it, but it can stretch it out. I hopefully explained that properly. I might have to explain it differently next time. But the point is that 120 frames you can see here now is I get this really cool footage. So I've only shared a clip of this on my Instagram like months ago at this point, or maybe over a year ago, where I took the juiciest bit of this footage. I think I like took a bit of normal speed as it was racing towards me, and then I timed it with some music to have it slow down and, you know, show off the cool cinematic mode when it's in slow motion. But I think that was like 10 seconds long, 10 to 15 seconds, something like that. That's the beauty of Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Obviously, you're trying to create something that's really engaging in a short span, like 5 seconds even, or 10 seconds. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. That's the attention span of most people, right? Like, you just only have a few seconds to give for whatever content, because there's so much competition of other really engaging content pieces. So yeah, the goal is you need to make something really exciting in a few seconds. The drawback, obviously, is there's so much that gets cut out. So yeah, I could share a 5, 10, 15 second clip on my TikTok or Instagram, but then how do I share all of this, all the moments in between, or all the ones that got, you know, was left on the cutting board, essentially? That's why I was like, oh, let me get into YouTube, because there's so much that I've captured that I do want to share that's maybe not as fitting for Instagram, but it could work for YouTube. It could work for longer form content. So you can see here, I'm playing this in its entirety. What will end up happening is, for my YouTube vlog, I might even show this in its entirety. I might need to edit it up a bit just to speed up some of the pieces, because even this is super long. So I'll just have to figure out how to make use of it, but at least I can tell more of it. And it is so cool. Like, you know, this was such a cool moment, seeing in slow motion. Thankfully, most of it was actually in focus. You know, it's normal that this got blurry because eventually it got very, very close to me. But to have majority of that footage in the snow, and I was able to get it with really cool focus. Yeah, this is one of my most favorite scenes I've ever captured. And again, keep in mind, I'm here, so I'm also in this crazy weather condition. I'm just being pummeled by snow. I'm freezing my ass off, but you know, you're just having fun. You honestly forget. So what's going to end up happening is, let's say I have this footage. I spend way too much time trying to find the right soundtracks. And what I do then is I try to map the footage, the visuals, to match the beats of the song. It's something I'm very, again, I'm going to use the word autistic and OCD quite a bit to describe myself, but it is something I'm super OCD about, where I will spend way too much time trying to figure out how to make the music match to the moment. But the end result ends up being something that I'm proud of. Usually, you know, it looks very epic or cinematic. It's something hopefully people will play over and over again. Let me see if I can show you the example of what I just worked on recently. So for instance, this is something I just posted on my Instagram, actually. It was a really cool clip of some horses that I was filming from my trip to Zimbabwe. I haven't gone to Zimbabwe yet in terms of my travel vlog. I have several more trips to go before I can get to that in its entirety. But when it comes to posting on social media, sometimes I'll see whatever moment hits and I'll start sharing it. Right now, I was kind of going through a lot of my footages from Zimbabwe. So I just happened to be looking at these horse clips. And then I also happened to be on Instagram just browsing for different soundtracks that I might want to use. and I found a really cool, like kind of like a cinematic soundtrack. It's very soft, and I figured, you know what, that could actually work really well with the clips that I was looking at. So for instance, let me show you here. This is the clip I ended up creating. Yeah, so it was a cool feature. And again, for shorter attention spans, I needed to make this, I think it ended up being like 15 seconds. But yeah, it was a cool effect. I'm basically I'm probably oversharing a bit, but that's the whole point, is I just want to share. I enjoy sharing what I learn. You know, and then hopefully if I'm doing something incorrectly, like I said, by sharing, you guys can also then provide feedback and tell me how to do things differently. But this 15 seconds came from originally much longer clips. How many seconds was this? Let's see here. Let me just find a... This was roughly... it was like over 7 minutes worth of footage, because I slowed down a bunch of these 120 frames per second footages. So of all this, I had to kind of review it to then get it to a 15-second clip. So yeah, not always the easiest, but you know, if you do things properly, you can end up creating something super cool. So let me just show you here. Let's create another timeline, 4K 24, horse galloping, landscape. All right, we're gonna show this in landscape format, because I think most of these footages I actually filmed it. 2 of these footages I filmed it in landscape. So just like before, I'm going to take these 2 clips. This is what it looks like in real time, by the way. Here, maybe I'll include the audio. Oh, the audio is going to be blown out because of the wind, but I'll just lower it a bit. So we'll track the filly. We'll track the young one. So I think I was shouting Perfect. At we'll track the driver. So we'll I think his name is Dave. Filly. Davey? We'll track the young one. Check. They're the owners of this ranch where I stayed. Perfect. So behind the scenes, I'm literally standing on a truck bed while we're racing alongside these horses, and I'm doing my best not to fall off or anything. A little bit reckless, but you know, I didn't fall off, so in hindsight it worked out. And essentially, yeah, so we're just trying to do our best to parallel track one of the horses then I was doing my best to try to be as stable as possible capturing the footage. But you can see it's obviously very shaky. I didn't use a gimbal. I was just hand holding the camera. But you know, I'm proud of myself. It was fairly stable for the most part. And the beauty of all these software programs is you're able to, you know, later on stabilize the footage further, and I can show what that looks like. But yeah, so this is the original clip, right? So I had to go through these two footages,
So we'll track the filly.
see
We'll track the
what
young
parts
one.
of it that I want to use, and then once I had it, for instance, I will slow down the speed again. So again, I shot both of these at 120 frames per second. So now I can end up with footage like this, and look at that. So literally just by slowing it down, you can end up with very, very cinematic shots. Now, unfortunately, I was out of focus there, but you know, you just go through the footage, see the parts where you hopefully capture things properly, and then that can end up becoming content. So for instance here, this might be a portion that I use for future videos, just because it's cool. You know, you see the rider and the horse in slow motion. Now you've got the actual horse that I wanted to capture. And thankfully, I had the horse focused, fairly centered, and fairly stable. And the rest I was able to fix later on in terms of stabilizing the footage. But yeah, because I slowed it down, there's all these moments that you just can't see with the naked eye at normal speed. But in slow motion, you can see everything. You can see how the muscles are twitching. You can see, you know, because the horse is breathing hard, the way the nose is, like the nostrils are flaring. Obviously, you can see how all the mane is kind of jumping around in the wind. Yeah, it's very fun. I very much enjoy not just capturing this, but I love actually sitting behind the computer and working through all the content. I think most people you'll find, I think most photographers and filmmakers, they generally, if they had to choose, they probably would tell you they enjoy being out in the field, actually capturing whatever the subject is, and they absolutely hate doing the editing piece. Or maybe not hate, but it's definitely not a part of their work, the workflow that they enjoy. Honestly, for me, I think I go back and forth, but it's essentially 50-50 for me. So I equally enjoy when I'm out here. For instance, in Zimbabwe, when I was capturing this footage, obviously the excitement and the adrenaline rush when you're filming this, being on the back of this truck that's speeding and you're doing your best not to fall off. There's so much energy and being in the moment. You have no other choice but to concentrate on capturing this moment and living in that moment. Very, very fun, very cool, all the cool stuff. But then I would say I think I equally enjoy doing what others might find boring, which is sitting at home in front of my setup and looking through all the content, sifting through it, color correcting it, grading it, slowing it down like this, and bringing the actual footage to life, right? And it's not just done automatically. Like if I were to show you, maybe I'll show you some examples later. If I were to show you the original footage, it doesn't look as cinematic as what you're seeing now. It was very flat and gray because I shoot in a raw format where, you know, it basically, it's not its final form, how you film it, but it retains a lot of details and information in the actual footage metadata, so you can turn it into this really cool colored content. But yeah, when you look at the original footage, it looks very flat and gray and boring, very dull, and it requires a human touch to have to go through this and bring it to life. So yeah, I don't know. It's almost like a philosophical question maybe, but I personally enjoy each part, and that's why it was a key part of why I decided I wanted to do this professionally, because I didn't find it boring. I enjoy every bit of the process of creating content. So I was like, okay, you know what? This is something I should spend more time doing, as opposed to, you know, shying away from it. So yeah, this footage is a little bit shaky because I think yeah, again, on the back of a truck. But now I can show you what it looks like when I stabilize it. So maybe we'll take the first footage first because it was a bit shakier. So again, look at the normal footage. You can see how it's bouncing around. And honestly, technology is incredible. So I can click on this section here for stabilization. just from my own reading and research and also trial and error, I find translation is the more effective mode for what I like to do. Sometimes, depending on how much I can crop, I might increase the cropping ratio and how much I'm able to keep the footage smooth. Otherwise, I'll hit stabilize, and then it'll take this footage, and hopefully very soon it's going to process it into a stabilized clip. As an FYI, I'm using a Mac Studio on this guy, so very, very overpowered machine, but given I work with a lot of 4K and 8K footages, and especially now that I'm trying to do live streams and work through all these photo editing and video editing software, I was like, I think the Mac Studio is what's necessary. All right, so you just saw that it jumped in terms of this was the original footage and then it cropped in. So that's part of the trade-off to get more stabilized footage. But now when I play the footage, very, very smooth. So it sacrifices a lot of the outer pixels of the original footage so that it can maintain whatever subject in the same place as much as possible. So it'll just essentially imagine it's like a target that constantly moves, and it's constantly moving your original footage box to keep, let's say in this case, the horse from jumping too high up and down, left and right from where it was prior in each previous frame. In order to keep it that way, though, it ends up having to crop a lot of the pixels on the outer frame. Hopefully that made sense. As I show more footages, I can make it make more sense later on. But the end result is that you get this super cool stabilized footage like this. So you can imagine on my future YouTube videos, I would definitely be sharing a lot of this in its entirety. And I mean, come on, how cool is this? I would probably put some nice soundtrack to kind of go with it. But otherwise, I end up with very, very smooth cinematic footages. So anyways, this is an example of a clip I was working on the other day to end up with the final one that I just showed. There is another clip that I'm trying to work on here, actually. Let's see if I can show, yeah, from this vertical one. Since I'm on this clip anyways, I was like, oh, maybe I can just quickly work on another vertical format footage that I can share to social media. So this is something I usually, kind of like the origin of me as a content creator was on Instagram. So I would spend a lot of my time on Instagram editing photos. And then post-COVID, I started getting into more video editing for short form. And I started creating really fun reels. And then I went into YouTube. And I'm almost exclusively just like focusing on building out my YouTube channel. So you can see here, for instance, one of the clips that I was thinking maybe I'll use to create a short on YouTube. I'm a little bit more liberal when it comes to what content I want to share as final produced content on YouTube, for shorts at least. For Instagram Reels, I'm a little bit more filtered in terms of what do I want to share there. So it's a bit more curated with the best of my final produced content. On YouTube, I just want to create content. I just want to share. I just want to be consistent in posting as much as I can of different moments. I have literally, I think, 70 to 100 terabytes worth of footages I haven't shared on my social medias from my year and a half of traveling. So yeah, I just want to be a bit more fast-paced when it comes to sharing content. So let's say in this case, I might even just take some moments of this, put a soundtrack to it, and just post it right away onto YouTube. But yeah, so I need to kind of go through this and see what parts to keep. Like this part is super cool. As it got closer, for the most part, I kept focus thanks to my camera. And as it's literally rotating around me, because it basically went, the car veered in its path kind of, but I was able to get fairly cool footage in that moment of kind of like motion distortion. So this part probably will end up as a YouTube short. I just need to make the content. So that's, by the way, just an example of like the kind of content I will probably do on my live streams. Again, these live streams, it's not like It's for everyone. I can barely guarantee, even to myself, that these would be entertaining or functional. But I figured, again, the goal is if I'm editing these videos in front of my computer anyways, and if I have a camera set up and I have everything necessary to go live and stream it, what's the harm in hitting the stream button and kill two birds essentially? So, and then over time, as I keep doing this, as I get more comfortable doing this, as hopefully I, have an audience of people who are interested in whatever I share, then that becomes its own content. So these are kind of my aspirations that I'm sharing with you guys. But ultimately, it was just, look, I might as well maximize the types of content I'm creating as I spend my time in front of the computer. So right now, like I said, my current goal is I wanted to start editing my next YouTube vlog. So previously, I'd created a vlog on Uganda, then I created a vlog for a trip to Tajikistan and to India. India was for snow leopards and tigers. Now I'm on my Mongolia trip. So I'll just open this guy back up again. And again, I've got, what did I say? Like 9 hours worth of footage that I need to go through. So one of the first steps now, after these are all the potential clips, is I just like to kind of color code and organize clips by, how do you say, by scene or by chapters, essentially. So for instance, I'm going to put on some music in the background again as I go through this edited clips. This is from a former video, so it says India. So I would need to change that to Mongolia. These are things I'll do later, but since this is in front of me, I figured I'll just change it up now. So I think the idea for this video is probably going to follow the format of how I did India and Tajikistan. And what I mean is I will start with a trailer. So it'll probably be like a, I don't know, less than 30-second trailer where I try to, this video, I'm going to walk through my 2 weeks in Mongolia as we encountered X and Y, did Z, blah, blah, blah. And I'll time it to some soundtrack. And then we'll start the journey. And I obviously, for obvious reasons, I will then show this in chronological order. So for instance, based on all the clips that I have, I'll have to kind of figure out what is the story. I'm not at the skill level yet where I know how to have a story before I travel. So I think that is the goal. I want to get to a point where I could be like, you know what? I know I'm traveling to country ABC in a couple months, and I want to craft an outline of a story up front. You know, here's the theme, here's the objective, and here are the different shot scenes that I need to capture, and then boom, I'm off traveling. That would be the ideal state where I'm so experienced, skilled, knowledgeable, visionary, where I kind of know what I'm going to capture, and I've got a plan in place of what are the different clips that I need. That would be the ultimate goal, because then that means I film things ahead of time, the cinematic moments that I have predicted I'll need for a video. I'm nowhere near that state. Usually what happens is I know I'm going to travel somewhere, and I just say, you know what, I'm just going to film everything. And I will maybe try my best to film different moments that might be important for like a storytelling vlog. So let's say filming me packing up my bags, or getting some selfie footage of me, let's say en route to the airport, or what it looks like from a plane ride. Every kind of B-roll moment that might be necessary or can help with the storytelling. But I don't actually know what I'm gonna tell a story on. So it's really just kind of a machine gun effect. Let me just film everything, and once I'm home, then as I sift through the 9 hours of content, I can maybe put together a story. It's worked for me so far, but like I said, like the problem is there might have been moments that if I'd known ahead of time that I should film this for instance, like, oh, you know what, I need to film a close-up of the plane seat, or I don't know, like the window, or I need to film a close-up of the eye of a camel at the farm, let's say, or whatever. Like, there could be these kind of shots that if I had known in advance and I had filmed it, it would have made my video 10 times more cinematic. So it's a trial and error thing. I'm learning as we go. But for instance, here I can see these are all different overlays, which I'll work with later. For now, I just want to focus on the actual video clips. So this was a clip from Ulaanbaatar. So now I have to go through the tedious task of actually organizing my clips in order. So plane ride, I'm assuming this happened. I took a few plane rides, but I think this might have been one of the original flights to actually get into Mongolia. Yeah, Turkish Airlines. So I'm pretty sure that should go up front. Same thing here. There's a world where I, label my content even more accurately, so I save time later when it comes to making sure all the footage are actually in chronological order. So let's see here. For instance, it seems like this one comes first. This one should come second. Closer to the plane. Obviously this is inside. Okay. So let's move these guys up. I heard a noise and I have no idea what that means. Like I said, I am very, very new. Oh, hey, I got a donation. Widow9410. Oh, of course. It's William. I know you. Order. Oh, wow. Order of what? And thanks for that $10, man. 10 spanking US American dollars. Will, by the way, is this stream working properly? Are you able to see everything? Is there any issues? Because on my side, because I don't know the technical stuff. For instance, from what I can see, it's saying like, hey, your bit rate, for instance, is very high. And I have no idea what that means. Your keyframe interval there's a caution sign. And again, I don't know if that means whatever I'm streaming is not showing properly. You tell me, man. But I did hear the alert for a donation, so I appreciate that, man. No refunds, all right? So keep spending your money on my channel. And I can see the chat, so at least that works. All right, anyways, let me just keep working. Contrary to popular friend belief, I do work all the time. So this is not necessarily for entertainment. All right, so like I said, I gotta do this tedious task. I just gotta rearrange all the clips in order. So I've got all the plane clips. Landing. Ah, shoot. So I landed in Istanbul. My God. So actually I have way more footage than I need, obviously, because I had a layover in Turkey. So let's put this all here. I probably don't need the Turkey clip. Yeah, we'll include obviously showing passage of time, so I think it'll be nice in the final video to show some clips of me traveling, as you see, go from daylight to nighttime, showing the rain, and then my goal is I have to make it entertaining enough that people are willing to watch however many seconds of plane shots. All right, this was when I landed in Ulaanbaatar, so I'll put that later. Ooh, okay, finally a footage of me, which coming out of the airport. I probably said something really, really important and exciting. Alright, so I got that clip. My first meal in Mongolia. Alright, so if I remember in terms of my itinerary, I flew into Ulaanbaatar. Is that the right destination? My god, I should know this. Ulaanbaatar. Yeah, capital Mongolia. Okay. So basically I landed in Ulaanbaatar, and then from here I went to a place called Olgi? Yeah, Olgi. Hahaha. My memory is shit, but it's not fully failed me yet. Alright, so basically I went from, let's go to maps. Alright, Olgi. Yeah. So I flew from Ulaanbaatar to Olgi, which would have been a 20-hour drive, but, you know, listen, I'm not about that life. I think it was like a hour flight. Alright, so that means I went to Ulaanbaatar. I think I spent one day here so that I could take the next morning flight to Olgi. So basically all I did is, you know, I just did some boring walking around, grabbed some, I think I grabbed some Korean food. There was surprisingly a decent amount of Korean influence in Mongolia. Actually, I think there was even a street called like Korea, K-pop Korea town, something or other. So, you know, not that I'm complaining. Alright, so for instance, this is a interesting, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but yeah, it was just a unique clip where in one of the kind of open squares, they just built this ice skate rink and like a little ice slide out of blocks. That's how cold Mongolia was when I was there, by the way. I think on average it was probably like -10 degrees to 15, and then when I went to Olgi, that's where it hit like -30 to -40. So I'll definitely use some scene here, just because it looks kind of cinematic. If I slow it down especially. Oh, I don't think I can slow this footage, but I can stabilize it. Use a bit of clips like that. Okay, so I'm going to keep this guy. Food clips. Oh yeah, oh no, modern nomads. That's what I think it was called, Korean nomads. Alright, so let's put all the food clips together. Generally speaking, food clips, they're not the most engaging because I'm not like a food photographer, nor do I know how to film food moments very well. So this is more just to talk about the passage of time or briefly as B-roll when I'm saying, like, hey, I spent a day in Ulaanbaatar, grabbed some food, and then checked out the main square where they had, I think it was probably, man, I could be saying some very culturally insensitive things here, but I'm assuming this is like Genghis Khan or somebody. Let's see, does it say? Who knows? Let's just assume I'm right, but yeah, they had some cool statues, whatever. I was practicing shooting some like time, what do you call those? Motion lapse or time lapse kind of footages. So this is one from a GoPro. This was what? The Insta360 and iPhone. Still not sure if I'm going to use this footage, but it's there. Okay, so me walking around. I might put that. I need to space it out with the other selfie footage. Alright, landscape. Let's put this in the beginning. So this is basically when I first landed. This is the view from outside the airport. Oh yeah, I had to take a taxi from the airport, and I shared it with this like really nice Russian lady who was telling me a lot of Russians moved to Mongolia recently. So I think there's a big connection between Russia and Mongolia. I honestly don't know any of the history or geopolitics or anything like that. But she was nice. I don't know if I actually filmed any moments of me talking with her. I wish I did, because she was kind of entertaining, saying some random non-PC stuff. Entertaining for me. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mongolia's nature was pretty cool. Let me just stabilize the footage now, because I'm kind of interested to see how it turns out. All right. Will said, "It's working great except for the annoying narrator." Why should I narrate her? Alright, so this footage is pretty cool. I think I'll probably emphasize this. Cut out these moments. Why did I focus? Oh, okay. I think I filmed because I just want to see if it makes it look cool if I do a little panning effect. Yep. Alright, so then... By the way, I think I got to a point where it took me around 2 weeks, start to finish, to post one of my travel vlogs. So that is actually the goal that I have for this. I'm setting aside the next 2 weeks to be able to take all this raw footage, essentially, or all these clips, and craft a story, put it together, and post it. That is not the easiest goal. But... Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Will. By the way, Will, make sure to follow me. I don't know where you follow me on, but essentially I'm also testing out how to stream across YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. So the goal is I need to essentially get enough followers on Twitch and Kick before I can actually have subscribers or like whatever to have it monetized. So yeah, I think that's what it is. That's what ChatGPT told me. So if you can follow me on all those channels, you know, not saying I'll owe you anything, but you know, like I'll throw a couple things your way. I might even text you a couple things, you know, appreciations, salutations, all that. Oh wait, let me just double check what you had said. Oh, thanks, man. Oh, a level tier 2 on my YouTube. I didn't even... Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I don't even know what that means. Hopefully doesn't mean that I've guaranteed I'm going to do anything for you. Besides thank you. But yeah, man, I appreciate that. I think YouTube is probably... I mean, dude, I don't know. It's such early days. I'm testing so much out right now. But the goal is obviously keep building my YouTube channel more than anything. So... yeah, man, we're on the grind set, you know, trying to post as much as I can. At some point, man, you gotta join me on a trip to Mongolia. Okay, maybe I can interest you in this. If not, either way, I'm either solo doing this or trying to convince some photographers or whatever. I really want to go to Mongolia to spend time with the reindeer tribe. Mongolia reindeer tribe. Change to English. They're a nomadic tribe, and they straight up ride reindeer. Okay, they straight up ride reindeer. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on these things, so I'm trying not to. But look at this, man. Come on. I would love to film this. Yeah, okay. This would be so cool to be able to just like chill with them, see their lifestyle. Look, this could be you, Will. They got the token, the typical white man, you know, teaching the ways of being an American. But how cool is this? Look, I'll be the photographer, so I'll take a photo of you out there. See, there's even a example of me chilling, sleeping on top of a reindeer. I think this would be one of the coolest places to travel, just like personally speaking, but then also to create some content out of it, obviously. Like everything I imagine here, if I film it, would just look so cool. I mean, come on. You're you're like living in a Christmas story, essentially. Yeah, what else do I see from this? Yeah. So this is on my bucket list of, or bucket list maybe not the right way to say it, but this is definitely on my my priority list of upcoming travels. So if all goes well, if I set up my YouTube, if I set up all the little things I'm trying to do, this is on my list for next year. I need to do a trip, a personal trip to Mongolia for spending time with these reindeer herders. Herders? The Satan tribe. Yeah, Mongolia is awesome. I will keep traveling there. Wait, did I insult you? I don't think I insulted. That was like a light insult, man. I didn't realize you've become such a snowflake. You didn't tell me you've become more, Good job. All right. Oh, man. I need to do a better job of actually everything, but I need to also... Hopefully I wrote down the names of the people I met. I know the names of all the people who were part of the tour company that was, accompanying me. I don't remember the name of the nomadic couple that I stayed with, though. So, yeah, hopefully it's written down somewhere, or I'm just gonna have to message someone. Oh yeah, food was amazing. They called this the 5-finger feast. Basically, what that means is you use 5 fingers to eat. They didn't really have utensils. I think it's like an Islamic thing. So, for instance, I got not in trouble, but I experienced the same thing in Dubai when I went out in the desert with some Emiratis. They kind of showed me around. I went falcon hunting with them, and then we had this big feast in one of the tents, and they taught me again how to eat properly. You're supposed to use your right hand, because I guess there's something religiously speaking, or something about like the left hand needs to be clean, whereas the right hand can be dirty. So you grab your food and just chow down. I was surprised they don't have chopsticks here, but when in Rome, essentially. Food was amazing. I didn't get any food sick. Yeah, I have a good track record. I don't really get any kind of foodborne sicknesses, so I just go to town. Man, the food was so good. All right, so all this was from... Yeah, so this is when... Okay, all this is for the next chapter, which is when I flew into Olgi. So I probably need to color code from... Yeah, at least here. So all of this... Oh wait, no. Did I do this right? Yeah, this is... Yeah. This is going to be for the chapter on arriving in Ulaanbaatar. Let's just make it orange for now. I think I'll include landing. No. We'll just put all the airport stuff in a different category. Okay, cool. So all the clips from Ulaanbaatar. This is when we enter into Olgi. And if I don't have the clips, which I'm a bit surprised I don't. Okay, you know what? It's because it's not in order. Alright, so I do have some clips. Perfect. Oof. Okay, I was doubting myself for a second. Alright, I'm not that... man, I need to research what I'm allowed to say on stream. In terms of bad words or whatever. But I do have the clips. So I have a clip when I boarded the flight to get to Olgi. So I'm going to jump this ahead over here. Will, I don't know if you're still there, but either way, I'll talk to you later. But this brings, I don't know if this brings back memories of when we were editing our first YouTube video together in our short-lived impromptu travels days, but yeah, working through these timelines and trying to put a story together. Listen, man, move back out to Dubai and we can do this together, but in a more professional manner. All right, so this was here. All right, hopefully I got this in the right order. Okay. Do I have this correct? So it'd be something like, okay, some B-roll footage of me. I might have some voiceover, blah blah blah, talking about how I had to board the flight. This should be me leaving the flight. Yep, perfect. And then jumping ahead to maybe including something from here. It might be unnecessary. Oh wait, no. This is when I was boarding. Okay, so this goes ahead. Cool. All right. Then we have some clips when I first meet my tour guides, essentially. Which is, oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Cool. Okay, so these would go up ahead. Nice, we're making progress. I got 2 weeks to finish this. So, which 2 weeks, by the way, sounds like a lot of time, but man, does that fly super quick if I'm not careful. Just gotta find some information here. Okay. There we go. And because this is a live stream and I'm capturing all the behind the scenes, you will, for anyone who's interested, you will end up capturing moments that I probably don't want to share, in the sense of, like, ideally I wouldn't post this in the travel vlogs on YouTube, but you guys will get to see it since it's live. So, you know, who knows, maybe I'm like farting or shitting my pants or something on camera, which you guys will get to see. Maybe that's the bonus content. That's the reason why you guys should subscribe and watch my content. Let's see here if I do anything. Hello from the other side. Alright, so I was testing. This was the first trip I went on with an Insta360 camera. So I was testing out, I didn't have a selfie stick at the time, so I just bought something from the airport and I kind of Frankensteined it together. So the 360 footage isn't going to be, like, you know, properly done. So you can see here, for instance, the stick is kind of visible, so it doesn't get creased out. But I figured it can work decently. You can see the other gear that I was using. So I think I traveled with, yeah, so I had two cameras with me. My Nikon Z9, and then I think I was borrowing a Nikon Z8 from Nikon. So I work with Nikon, by the way, so they are my exclusive, I guess, in the sense of, like, my camera gears that I use and I promote, generally speaking. So I'm a creator for them in the Middle East African region. And so they're super helpful. They lend me gear all the time for my trips. So in this case, they lent me, I think, was it just the camera? I think they just lent me, I say just, but they lent me a second camera body, which was a Z8 or a Z9. And then I was traveling with this camera had a 24 to 70 millimeter lens, and then the other camera I had a 70 to 200 lens. So that's generally how I like to travel. I love traveling with two cameras, with two lenses for different focal lengths, so that I don't miss any moments. So let's say if something's super close up, I have one camera ready to go with a wide angle. Let's say if a dog is coming up to me and wanting to be pet, I can film it fairly well all the way up to when it reaches me. And then the 70-200 lens that I have, that works well for those faraway shots that I want to capture. And again, you can imagine the way I travel. I'm usually a solo traveler if I'm not going with a group. And what that means is I don't have time to swap lenses in the moment. I mean, I could do that, but then you end up missing moments because I'm just filming whatever I see. So it's like very impromptu. It's very just kind of in real time, things will happen. I'd prefer having cameras on at all times and ready to go so I don't miss any moments. So yeah, hence why I'll have the two cameras. For this one, I was also testing out a smartphone gimbal from Zhiyun. I think it's called the Smooth 4S or 5S. So you can see that's what I have hooked up here to my iPhone. And what else was I using? I think, oh yeah, and then obviously, as I mentioned, the Insta360 X3 camera I think I had at the time. And what I don't have here visibly is I had a GoPro, which, oh yeah, there's the GoPro. GoPro actually ended up being kind of sick. I want to go back here to keep testing out the gear, but I was actually able to attach the GoPro onto one of the Eagles because the owner literally created a vest specifically to fit onto the Eagle and strap a GoPro camera onto its back. So I got to actually film some moments of the Eagle in flight from the Eagle's point of view. So that was kind of cool. Some lessons I learned from there in terms of how to shoot it better in the future. Plus I have new gear now that's much more lightweight, somewhere behind me. So yeah, this is why I love traveling, especially as I keep upgrading my gear. There's just cooler things, cooler ways to film things. This was, for instance, the GoPro that I was testing out. So generally speaking, in an ideal world, I'd film everything with my professional camera gear, so my Z cameras, because obviously the quality is the best. It's consistent in terms of how I can color grade. But having said that, it's good to have these secondary cameras ready to go. So like my iPhone, these action cameras, because sometimes like the moment will pass you by, or I don't have the right lens on the cameras. So this way I can capture every moment without missing anything. But in an ideal world, my professional cameras will do all the work. So here I was just capturing some road shots. I'm zoomed in. Mongolia, by the way, is, when it comes to landscape, it's pretty amazing. Especially in the wintertime, you get these, you basically have these rocky mountain landscapes in every direction, and it's mixed in with a lot of these kind of like rolling hills and valleys. I do need to visit in the summertime. Apparently it's completely green and it's got rivers flowing through and lakes and everything else. So yeah, Mongolia, I don't even want to say it's underrated, because that implies like it never had a good rating or something. But like, I think most people do rave about Mongolia, talk about how they want to visit there, and for good reason. And it's definitely a place that I've been there now 2 times, maybe 3, 2 times at least. And it is my goal to go here consistently. So I'm in the works right now of creating tours, like organized group tours. So, I work with the tour operators, logistics, and I put together an itinerary that is both usually economically or financially much more reasonable if you attend one of these tours versus if you try to go there on your own, just because of shared costs and everything else. But then also I'm curating an itinerary where hopefully it takes the heavy lifting out of the equation for you as a traveler. You would just trust me with the itinerary created the experience we're going to have, and all you have to do is pay me, and we go together on these trips. So that's something I've started doing about a year back. I've been successful in running a number of those tours so far, and I'm just trying to make it a more of a consistent thing. So I just revised I refreshed my website. All the pieces are functional now on my website. I'm in the midst of negotiating pricing for a number of locations like Uganda, Japan, Mongolia, Zimbabwe, Vietnam would be nice again to go, Colombia. So a lot of it will be wildlife focused, but at the same time, it's just about anywhere that's just exciting to visit, right? And I love revisiting places, especially with all the gear that I have, because obviously I'm not filming everything that I could. So to go back again and capture more moments, that's the dream. All right, so I have more plane footage, which I'll jump up to the front. This is what it looked like as we were flying into Obi. Just straight up. Yeah, I think, what's his name? There's a creator called Nas Daily. I think he's one of the largest travel kind of related creators, but he did a video recently in Mongolia, and apparently it's like the most remote location in the world or something. It's like the most remote country in the world in the sense of landmass versus people per acre or something like that. It's like the most spread out place in the world, I think is what he said. Whatever. Point is, there's a lot of land and not many people that live there. Imagine whatever I said, but said better. Alright, so these, I will jump up to the front. This is when I first meet the crew, I think. Oh, one thing I learned. The goal is that every trip that I work on, hopefully the content and the quality gets better and better. One of the things I learned from this trip was the power of wind and having the right gear to cut out all that wind noise. So you can hear it here. It's essentially like unusable at certain points because that wind just hits the camera. It's very ugly is the wrong word, but it's like a very harsh sound. It cuts out everything else. It's just something that as you are wanting to be more professional, you have to find ways to remove that from these kind of outdoor shots. So yeah, it was a lesson learned for me. So I think after this trip, I started investing more in different microphones and those little, what do they call them? The dead mouse? Dead cats? I think they call them dead cats, right? Dead cat. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like dead mouse makes more sense. But yeah, these dead cats protectors, and these are things you put on your microphones to muffle the sound or remove the sound entirely of like that wind noise. So yeah, unfortunately I did not know that at the time, so there are a number of those moments you see here. Also, since this trip I also invested in better microphones in general, so now I use I have them all back behind me, but I use a DJI Mic 3, I believe, and also a Hollyland, these little portable mics. They're magnetic. They're really cool. It's like a little button, and you attach it anywhere that's magnetic. Right. It captures all. Yeah, so this kind of sound is just not...
Doggy, Dobby,
Doggy.
Doggy, and then Ibo. Yep. Nice to meet you. 7 seats. 7 seats. Okay.
This is Doggy. That's Ibo. Ibo's. I ended up actually on my next trip to Mongolia. I went again in November of 2024. Ibo was my guide again. Super cool guy. Honestly, just had a blast with him. If I could travel with him as a guide everywhere, I absolutely would. Dogi was cool too. I just didn't get to see him the second trip. Dogi was, generally speaking, our driver. Ibo was my like translator / guide, and I apologize, I forget her name because she was also on the trip the second time. Hopefully
people can be in here with including me or. No. 7
she was the chef though, so it was really cool. We had basically a chef at all times. Oh my god, the food! I'm getting more just thinking. But this was our this is the vehicle we traveled cross country with. apparently it's like some kind of Russian model or make or something. It's like a old school camper or something. One of my Russian friends was explaining like, oh, this is one of those kind of hipster Russian vans. It did break down a few times. When I say breakdown, it got stuck in the snow a few times, which was fun for content. Yeah. Beck Travel, so that's the name of the tour company I worked with. Beck is the owner. So yeah, basically before this trip, I had reached out to a number of different tour companies to kind of like give a pitch of, hey man, I'm not hey man, but like, hey, I'm trying to travel to Mongolia. It's my first time. I would love to create content. Can we work together? Can you provide preferential ratings? Sorry, rates when it comes to the different costings, with a mutual benefit of hopefully I'll be able to promote you guys. I'll work with you guys in the future and so on. I will say, like, I'm not like the biggest creator out there, like by far. At the time of this trip, I probably had like 40,000 followers on Instagram, and TikTok. Technically, I had like 100,000, but that was just from one video that went viral, and it literally just one video got me 100,000 followers in a single month on TikTok. But TikTok's different. It's not the channel that I necessarily know how to use. It was just something that happened. But yeah, so I don't really put as much weight behind TikTok for that reason. And YouTube, I mean, I don't even know if I had a YouTube channel at this time, or if I did, it was very, very early stages. Probably less than like 400 followers. So, but with all that said, I've learned a lot from this past year and a half of doing this professionally and full time. Sometimes all you have to do is just ask. I think people just forget how like straightforward it is, but how effective of a tool it is. You just ask. And what I mean is like doing like cold calls or emails. I've done a number of outreaches to various Instagram accounts, companies via email, where I would just be like, hey, I would love to travel to X destination. Can I work with you, and can you provide good rates? So for instance, my first trip to Zimbabwe, I just reached out to a channel that I saw on Instagram called Marenhe Eco Safaris. That's the horse guys. One second. Marenhe Eco Safaris. Okay, I'm trying to learn from my former mistakes to not like dox myself or anything like that. But anyways, so this is Marenhe Eco Safaris. And I had seen a viral clip of theirs like way early on of the fact that like on their ranch or on like the lodge, you can stay at these lodges and literally have horses right outside your window grazing from literally like yards away, or like just right in front of the door. It was super cool to see. And so I actually sent an email, or sorry, I think I just sent a message to their Instagram channel to Cindy and oh my god, I think his name is Davey. I apologize if I have it wrong. I'm just going off memory here. Cindy was my my primary point of contact. So friendly, so considerate, very excited, and they basically told me like, yeah, look, come visit, create all the content, film, do what you're talking about, stay as long as you want, and some like travel logistics and tour companies who also let me stay for free or have complimentary benefits to do some wildlife safaris. And in return, I got to create content, you know, reduce my costs obviously besides flights and everything. And then ultimately I was able to bring clients back to Zimbabwe, and you know, in return for, this is what I'm saying, like a mutually beneficial, is obviously then they can hopefully make some money in the future from like a long-term relationship. So yeah, that like it literally just from me asking. And I've done that with all these places. I've done it to lodges directly, tour companies, and even with barely any, you know, YouTube followers or just an Instagram presence, or just by me being earnest or saying, hey, I can take photography, you know, I can do photography, I can do videography. What, you know, is there a way we can work together? It's led to different opportunities. So Okay, 1 second. Someone, I think, knocked on my door, so I will be right back. So what were my highlights of Uganda? I'll start with the wildlife. The most obvious, but also the most exhilarating, are the mountain gorillas in windy, impenetrable forest. Nothing quite matches the rush you feel when, after trekking deep within the dense jungle, you come face to face with a silverback and his family. Memorable moments for me included basically any time the silverback moved, given its imposing features, the comical antics of a playful baby gorilla learning how to climb, and a heart-stopping moment as a mother gorilla pushed past me to get to her children. Okay, I am back. Hopefully that worked, by the way. I created these like be right back scenes. Essentially just meant to be like anytime I have to go away, can I embed some of my YouTube videos or just like clippable moments from just any content I've created inside of this arts of my home studio, essentially. That was fun to create, by the way. I spent way too much time trying to figure out how to make that work using like ChatGPT and Canva and everything else, but yeah, so it should be random. Every time I go away, it'll just play any number of those clips. So there you go, behind the scenes. All right, so let's keep working here. And like I said, this is my first stream, so I'm probably doing so many things incorrectly. After the end of this stream, I'm just obviously going to review what works, what doesn't, especially on a technical angle. You know, those are things that I should be able to improve, hopefully. Any glitches or things that are incorrect. Personality glitches, you know, not much I can do about that. I can just be myself and try to be more entertaining on stream. But yeah, you just gotta make incremental changes on things that you can. So anyways, all right, so these were, I'll need to front load these clips a bit more, but let's put this clip towards the beginning because this is when everything from the flight to when I first get introduced to the crew, and then the drive. Okay, let's start with the vehicle. Okay, we'll start with these clips first. Plane and getting to the vehicle. I've said this, I'm going to keep saying it. Most people would find what I'm doing right now so boring and monotonous compared to the other elements of being like a photographer or filmmaker or whatever. I enjoy this. It's very therapeutic for me. There's a reason, I don't know. I'm like the type of person, I thoroughly enjoy video games like what's that one that just came out? Death Stranding 2. I love playing that. I play that in my off time. And I'm barely, I don't know how many hours I put into it so far, but I'm very, very not far in the game because I spend all my time doing all the little side quests and just walking and driving the terrain very slowly to pick up things on the way, and super boring stuff for most people. For me, it's like very therapeutic. I will do that, and I usually multitask. So while I'm doing that, I'll have like a video, I'll be watching a movie, or I'll be listening to YouTube at the same time. So, all right. Anyways, where are we at? We have all these clips. Then we get to the initial drive. So these ones. Oh yeah, this one I was testing all the gear I have. So I think I was filming at the same time. This is from the gimbal, my smartphone, and then this is the Insta360. So this is kind of how you get to see how I travel. Here I had my 400mm lens attached to probably my Z9. This is a beast. This is definitely meant for professionals, just because the cost of it, it's like like $15,000 worth. Heavy duty, it's meant for shooting mostly for like sports and wildlife photographers and videographers. So this is my go-to lens for all my wildlife safaris. You use this, you can film from a Jeep and capture the lions and leopards or whatever else from a distance pretty well. But it's very bulky and big, so. Alright, so this is the actual foot. I see. Kind of a boring shot, to be honest with you, but I think I was just testing out the different gear. So this is the footage from that iPhone shot you saw behind the scenes. So this, I think I was just testing out everything. So as I was walking, this is what you get to see. So these clips, I mean, honestly, kind of boring. Doesn't really tell much. Okay, so this might make the cut if I'm just like giving a little brief about, hey, so for this trip I use this gear, this gear, this gear, and as I talk about like, hey, I use the smartphone gimbal, blah blah blah, maybe I'll have this as a b-roll to show this out in the field. Otherwise it doesn't really add much to the story. Alright, this is the drive. So just to give some, you know, what am I thinking of right now? I'm just trying to compile all the footages chronologically that fit for a section where I want to show I got picked up so I landed from the airport in Ogi, met the crew after doing introductions, seeing the van that I'll be using for the duration of the trip. Then I want a section where I have all the clips of the drive itself as we were getting to our destination, from which I will then eventually filter further and figure out what clips I want to use. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going through these clips to see the order that I can push to the front of the timeline. So like all of these probably will go up to the front because they're all from the drive. I definitely saw more goats than I did people on this trip. Not necessarily a bad thing. So a lot of the drive, I think we drove for, I want to say like 4 hours. I could be making this up. It was several hours of driving to get to our final destination. But it was also kind of cool because a lot of times there was no road. So it might be like gravel like this, or it literally would just be like this. So kind of bumpy road the whole time. But the views, again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. This is like the countryside. This is like the wild, wild east, essentially, to America's wild, wild west. Just like very, very untouched in many ways. Not much civilization. Literally, not even many settlements, like established buildings or anything. A lot of nomads would live here, so you know, it's like a lot of temporary structures. But the views are awesome, like you can see here. Like, how cool is that? Oh, you know what? I just realized. I just made a mistake. You guys couldn't see what I was doing. So I told you I'd be making lots of mistakes. That's another one for the books. Okay, now you should be able to see my editing screen. So what I was meaning to show you guys is all these clips as I'm putting in order. So this is Mongolia's landscape. Very, very shaky footage because I haven't stabilized anything yet. But I'll definitely be using clips from this for the final content piece. Alright, so let me just jump all this up as well. I do remember this was a fun little pit stop. So okay, this camel. Let's move this over here. So on the drive, we stumbled upon some of these two-humped camels. I forget the name of these two-humped camels. I think it's like Bactrian something. Two-humped camels. Bactrian. These are called Bactrian camels. And apparently you can only find these guys in Central Asia. Basically like Mongolia. It's one of the only places in the world you can see them. They're kind of like semi-domesticated. So the nomadic tribes, they will domesticate the camels in the sense that they keep them on... I'm speaking out of turn here, but essentially they are domesticated. However, they just roam freely. because the owners, the nomads, they don't use these camels for anything except for when they're migrating. So when they're about to move from point A to point B, they'll use the camels just to transport their goods. Otherwise, the camels literally just roam around freely. I don't think they do anything else with the camels. So it's kind of fun because you can stumble upon these guys, you know, they're just out in the middle anywhere. Wherever they just roam freely, you can film them. So this is the first time I've ever seen a two-humped camel. In Dubai, they only got the one-humped guys. And these guys are so cool. They are very photogenic because they're super, super fluffy. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some nice footage here to go through. Yeah, look at their face. These guys are just like... And when they look at you, yeah, they're like the ugliest cool looking things, honestly. But yeah, the two humps, thick coat, fluffy. It makes for some good content, I would say. Maybe not this part. I don't know if I'll keep him pissing at the camera, but listen, anything goes. So yeah, these are the Bactrian double-humped camels. So yeah, I'll make some content out of this. I need to include this. So that'll be like a fun little pit stop I want to put in as I was on my way to the nomadic family. I'll probably use one of... yeah, this is probably the clip I'll use. So I shot this in 60 frames. I usually won't do this until much later in the editing process, but sometimes it's fun to just kind of show it now. Okay, I'm going to slow down this clip. So I shot this in 60 frames. So this timeline is a 24 frames frame rate timeline. So the 60 frames essentially is more frames than is actually necessary because my output is going to be 24 frames per second. So what that means is if I have a 60 frames per second video, I can slow it down and stretch those frames in more seconds until it's still 24 frames per second, but instead of it being 1 second, it'll be much longer. So in this case, I can slow down the footage by 40%, which then stretches it to match a 24 frames per second video. I have a whole PowerPoint that I created that kind of explains this because I do workshops as of recent. But listen, it's easier for me to like say it out loud and try to improve how I explain some of these concepts. But again, here's the final result. So because I slowed it down, you can see it's a bit more cinematic. I still haven't stabilized it, so I can stabilize the footage further. And of this clip, I'll probably just take a few seconds of it. In the final results, I'm probably having some soundtrack in the background. Maybe I'm voicing over by saying, hey, on the way we saw these crazy looking camels and blah, blah, blah. Maybe explain it. Or if it's all unnecessary or it doesn't really add much to the story, I won't show any of that, but I still will show the clip. So I'm just gonna have to go through this in the final stages to figure out what portion of this is the most visually appealing. So maybe some portion from there. Oh yeah, definitely this portion. So same thing. I shot this at 60 frames and slow this down to 40%. And you know what? Let's go ahead and stabilize this just to show you guys. Okay. So you can probably hear a little bit of that wind sound because I have the audio from this clip enabled. Like I said, it was good learnings for the future. Not that I would have used the audio for this clip anyways, but you know, it's like just better to be well equipped and prepared for any potential shots. Like what if the camel started like screeching at me? Obviously I would have wanted proper mics that cuts out the wind sound. So that's something for the future. But otherwise, here I will mute the audio from the actual clip and it'll probably be some kind of soundtrack. But yeah, there's some cool moments here I'll probably end up using. So these camel clips will be its own section. This is when I actually arrived. So we arrived at the homestay that I'll be at. very like kind of like straightforward, simple house. Nothing crazy. They also have, oh my god, what do they call these? I think they call them yurts, gurs. It's like in America, it's like equivalent to those hogans, like the Native American hogans. But yeah, basically they can set this up in I think like 20 minutes. It's insane. The speed in which like the Mongolian nomadic people can set up these things, because this is meant to be very portable. So they'll pack all this up, go on horse ride, you know, by horse or camel, or they'll migrate to another location, and then when they need to sleep overnight, they just set up these gurs, yurts in a matter of minutes. I ended up staying in this for one night, but oh my god, it was way too cold. Again, it wasn't planned, but I arrived in Mongolia right as this crazy cold front was hitting with negative 40-degree temperatures. So even for me, it was, you know, like, I say even for me it was way too cold. So I tried surviving one night, and then I said, you know what, let me go back in the house. And it got so cold, by the way, I should have a video clip of this. It got so cold, they literally brought in the what do you call it, like an electric, no, not like a gas stove, and just kept the fire running on the stove near me as a heater. Okay, you know what, now I want to see if I have the clip somewhere. It should be. It was I think I filmed it on my phone, so let's just jump through some of these clips. Oh, you know what, I just saw a really fun moment. There's so they let me actually call the eagle, so you can see I'm waving around this like piece of raw meat, and I have it on the GoPro as well, but then the eagle flew right to my hand. Let's full screen this.
Check your hands, yeah, check.
I'm freezing here, by the way. You can see I have like several layers on. So cold I had to put my left hand in my pocket. Anytime there's any chance I can warm my hands up, I had to.
Yeah, she's coming.
It took a bit of time, so obviously all of this I'm gonna cut out. It's just gonna be the key moment right before. And she landed right on my hand. Same thing, so what'll end up happening is I'm just gonna slow that bad boy down in the final results. This one I shot at 60 frames, the same thing. You can slow it down nicely. It'll look like, yeah, so just get a nice cool moment like this. Boom. And you can see the eagle is massive. I mean, I'm not a big guy, so regardless, but like that eagle, my friends would joke it probably would be able to lift me up and take me away. I would never verify that, but I'm probably the most excited for these kind of clips. This one I shot at 60 frames, so I do have better ones at slower rates. Oh yeah, so this is when I actually, so they attached the GoPro onto the eagle. And then I actually filmed it. I don't know if the final results of the film looks cool or not, just because this is the first time I ever tried anything like this, and we didn't try it often just because it was way too cold, and you know. But it was kind of cool to be able to try. So you can see here, she's got a GoPro strapped to her back. So this is the power of having the professional camera gear. So I think I filmed this with the Nikon Z9 with the 400mm lens. And it is pretty tough. So I had it on a tripod, and because you don't know what direction the eagle is going to be coming from. It could come from any direction. Honestly, it was so unpredictable. So you have to have it on a tripod swiveling around and hopefully having it in frame, having it in focus. So it's not to say this is like super easy, even if you have the right gear. But, you know, practice makes perfect. We tried it a few times. That's kind of cool. I didn't see this before. It's like walking on air. Yeah. So these are going to be the coolest parts of the clip, I think, is like anytime you see the eagle hunters. But I was supposed to do something before I got distracted. I was trying to find, oh yeah, the clip of the freaking gas stove that was just placed next to me, and I slept with it. If it's not here, I might have forgotten it, but I mean, it's saved to my cloud because I'm pretty sure I filmed it on my iPhone, so it's not like lost to time. That's my biggest fear as a content creator, is that I like delete something that I shouldn't, or it didn't get saved. But let's not lose hope yet. Let's find this bad boy. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll get to this eventually, but I tend to prioritize doing like wildlife, animal type content in terms of like filming things, but I really enjoy capturing cultural moments, capturing moments with locals. This is one of my favorite moments. Was just, it got so cold, we were going eagle hunting, and then we said, you know what, it's too cold for us, for the eagles, for the horses, whatever. So we just one of these guys lived nearby, so we went to his house, and the wife just greeted us, started making food for all of us, and we started drinking together. So they had some kind of Mongolian vodka or something. Yeah, this guy. And then yeah, we started just getting drunk together. They pulled out the instrument. Aibo's an excellent singer. Some of them played for us. Let's see if I can... So this is going to be fun for me to go through and figure out how to showcase this in the vlog. Yeah, fun times. I didn't get like blacked out drunk with them, but it was fun to just be able to take shots with them, and as they're playing songs for me. The wife was really good. Yeah, just cool moments. This is why I love traveling. You just get to have these kind of moments that you can't really experience at home, by definition. I mean, you can watch it on TV, but it just hits different when you're able to be in their homes, actually spend time with them. Yeah, see how warm and welcoming they are. Yeah, it's just it's a cool part of traveling. Traveling is a privilege, but if you're able to, you make the most out of it. This is how cold. This is how cold Mongolia was. So literally froze over the front of my lens.
My camera froze over.
Just like absolute insanity. Diabolical. But these guys are heavy duty cameras that, they can survive this. Oh my god, I'm so hungry now. Okay, I need to get some food soon. I haven't eaten all day. Okay. In case you want to know what an eagle sounds like, there you go. This is how bundled up I was, and even then, I honestly, it was just, I can't really describe, I can only visually show it, but I can't really describe the intensity of the cold. I mean, granted, I am someone that was born and raised in Arizona. I am someone who's been living in Dubai for a number of years now, so I'm clearly a desert person, a desert man. But I'm also someone, I love cold. I prefer, having my AC at like whatever, like 68, 69, 70 degrees or 21 degrees Celsius. I love the cold, and I was just absolutely dying, even through all the layers, like your fingers, your toes, it's going. So I borrowed some thick jacket from one of the locals. I think I wore like a fox coat at some point because they're all hunters. But yeah. Anyways, let's try to find
Outside is
a lot of drinking. If I don't have this clip on hand, oh yeah, an eagle shat on my backpack. They told me it's for good luck, so. But you can imagine I wasn't too happy about that. All right, I am trying to find a significant moment. If not, it's on my phone somewhere. I'll just have to retrieve it. But yeah, this is my trip. I'm just going in backwards order here, but you can kind of see, hopefully it looks interesting. I mean, it was, but hopefully you kind of get a sense of a story that I can tell. Like, being able to go explore the wilderness with these eagle hunters, getting a taste of their lifestyle, going hunting with them. I went ice fishing with them, obviously seeing what happens in a blizzard and the way they go about their day to day. Here's where we got stuck in the snow. We had to dig ourselves out. I think one of the coolest cinematic shots is from here. Yeah. Look how cool this is. Let me just lower the volume a bit. So I ended up turning this into an Instagram reel at some point, just because like this is such a cool. It's very, I don't know. There's got to be a word to describe this better than I am, but it felt very surreal at the very least, to be kind of caught in this mini. It wasn't a real blizzard. It's just the wind kicked up at this particular point, and everything looked golden when you look in the direction of the sun. You just get the silhouettes of of Ibo and the others. So it's a very, very dramatic moment. There's the ice fishing. Yeah, this is what it looks like. That's me. Doggo, ice fishing. So yeah, there's enough here that I need to somehow, I say magically, but I need to spend the next 2 weeks as I go through step by step, start deleting the clips that are unnecessary, start highlighting the ones that are definitely necessary. I will start painting a picture, and you guys get to kind of see from start to finish, right? So clearly you can see I'm in the early stages of it, where I've got all the individual clips. I'm talking through a little bit of, what my process or what my thoughts are of what to keep, what story to tell. These are some of the shots when I went out with them to go hunting. We weren't successful in actually hunting anything. Again, the blizzard is all we got to see. Yeah, you kind of get the picture. All right, I don't have that clip that I was talking about. It's on my phone somewhere, so I'll need to retrieve it. But yeah, these were the camel shots. Then it's me. I did take a drone out for this trip, but I didn't really capture much. So this will just be more for like B-roll. Yeah, so same thing. I'll probably go through this and maybe there's a few seconds I might use. It could be for my trailer. But honestly, I generally just prefer shots from my cameras versus the drone. It depends, right? What I'm capturing, but I'm also like very, very amateur when it comes to drone photography, drone videography. Oh boy. Cute dog. I would love a dog like this. I've got my 2 cats, but listen, if I could have a big ass dog, that's on. Let me show my cat. Nala. This is Nala. I decided, you know what? I have this little Logitech webcam, and so I was like, I could just place it near one of my cat beds and create a little cat camera. So that's what you're seeing here. This is Nala. She's my first cat. I think she's, how old is she? I got her post-COVID, so she's probably like 4 years old. Good girl. Very, very talkative cat. But also she's a diva, so she's what it. The other one, Kimbap, is sleeping behind in a little cat bed. At some point he'll pop up and I'll introduce him. Kimbap's the younger of the two. I think he's about 2.5, 3 years old. By the way, I'm really bad with keeping track of dates and birthdays and stuff. I don't celebrate my birthday ever. Yeah, it's just something I guess I don't think about much. But this is Nala. I want to say 2021. We'll call you 5 years old. We'll just go with that for now. Good girl. Yeah. All right, let me get back to editing. I'm doing work here. I gotta work. Okay, so this is when I first meet one of the owner's dogs. Super friendly. This was shot on the GoPro, which is why the cropping ratio is different. So I'll have to kind of zoom in on this guy. Super fluffy dog. You can imagine anything that survives in this kind of winters needs to have thick coats. And all right. So these clips go together. This one is out of order. Dun, dun. Just turning up the music a bit. Alright, this must be when I think this is right before we went for our first kind of horseback riding and hunting. So you can see I had a GoPro strapped to my head, and then here's my iPhone. I think maybe a selfie stick was involved as well. Was it? I was like testing all my gear. This is also what makes traveling like what I do not the easiest, by the way. I do take pride in my energy level, I have good endurance for doing these kind of things, just because I enjoy what I do. I very much enjoy being out in the wild. Most people would be like, why, why are you carrying around 3 cameras, strapping a camera to your head? It's heavy, it's exhausting, but it's fun for me. So here I think I was trying out like 3-4 different cameras at the same time. Oh yeah, so this is when I went for a horse ride. So I think every day, the itinerary was fairly loose. It was just like, look, you're gonna meet some of the eagle hunters, you're gonna go out with them, go for rides, see their lifestyle, go on hunts, and capture whatever we see. So in this case, we went for a ride. But again, like I said, the itinerary changed up quite a bit just because of how freezing cold it was. So it wasn't really conducive for hunting. But either way, we would go out. I think a few times we go places to also do some video shoots and photo shoots. So they would take us to the mountains. I would take some nice photos of them as they're posing or letting the eagle out. Okay, so all of this I'll need to cut up, but it's gonna be some nice footage, good storytelling. This will be its own section when I talk about, I don't know what the chapter will be called, but it's definitely something about going for a ride. It could be the first ride. Alright, so all of this I need to reorder. But yeah, I think I'm safely on the next day or like the next bit of content. So let me just backtrack a bit. I think that means all the different footages I needed to showcase the beginning of the trip is all highlighted. Okay, yeah, okay. So ordering wise, I think I have it all. These guys. Okay, so this is all part of the camel shots, I think. This was camel shots. Okay, the drive. So the drives I want to put up front. Keep going. Perfect. Okay, so if I have the ordering somewhat correct, I land, I meet the crew, we do our drive. These are all the driving shots. Next would be the pit stop for the camels. Just all these guys. Okay. Camels. At some point, when did I... Oh yeah, so this is when... This place looks different though. Either my memory is complete trash. No, yeah, this is a pit stop. Okay, so this wasn't the final destination. So we made one pit stop. So I don't know if I'll include this or not. Just because it depends if anything useful was said, or it depends on the final duration, but yeah, maybe it's a B-roll where it's like, oh yeah, we took one quick pit stop, blah blah blah, otherwise we keep going. This is the final place we stayed at, but I'm jumping too far ahead. Okay, this comes ahead because these are all the food shots that I referenced from when I was in Ulaanbaatar. So this is actually from the first day when I first landed in Mongolia. So let's go ahead and put this, just put it here-ish. Push these guys back. Color these guys. I said this before, but I'm only 1.5 years into DaVinci Resolve and all this kind of video filmmaking stuff. So if at any point you see that I'm doing something incorrectly, or there are ways that if there are shortcuts or better ways to do things, please by all means share it with me, because obviously I want to keep getting better at this. So yeah. Otherwise, you get to watch me doing it my way, which is just the only way I know. Alright, well, when did this happen? Clearly a road shot, which I can use. Oh yeah, okay. So maybe I can use this earlier in the video when I talk about the gear that I'm using. So this will kind of be like, oh yeah, so for this trip, blah, 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 I used XYZ gear. I might have a little overlay where I show, I might even use some text overlay to kind of break down all the gear I have, or point them out as I play the video. So for instance, I have the Z9. Okay, I think I shot with, did I shoot with 2 Z9s? Yeah, so I had 2 Nikon Z9 cameras. That's the flagship cameras for Nikon. I had my iPhone, Insta360, my GoPro, and drone. So yeah, we'll front load that footage. Then maybe we'll put this up front. This is more like a sidebar for myself. I'm Korean. I'm Korean American, but ethnically Korean. I grew up with this choco pie. Nala, what are you doing? Choco pies. If you've never had it, you should add it to your grocery list. They are, it's like crack cocaine. How would you describe this? It's like a marshmallow chocolate. Oh my god, I'm like salivating thinking about this guy. But yeah, it's just like a chocolate marshmallow thing. So I saw these at the store when I was in the city, so I had to get some of these guys. Choco pies. If I can get sponsored by Choco Pies, Actually, I don't even know who owns this company. Lotte. If I can get sponsored by Lotte, I would happily become a fat ass for that. These are all the foxes that the locals that I stayed with, that he's personally hunted. It's an interesting lifestyle. This one also needs to go up front. Road shot and road shots. So put this. Choco pie. Driving shots. We'll just put this. I usually in the beginning of this, I'm not like super accurate about placement and the ordering. It just has to be accurate enough that they're all relatively in the same location as each other. So it's just easier for me to kind of go through the relevant clips later on. And then doing the color coding stuff helps. So what do we say? These are all the plane shots. Okay, so what progress have we made? We got all the initial departure shots, airplane shots, whatever. Then we've got arriving in Ulaanbaatar, our quick little day trip, what we did. Then we've got secondary flight. Why is this dark? Okay, this must have been from my earlier. Okay, yeah, this is the Turkish airline flight. So let me make some changes. These would go up front. Okay. Perfect. All right, so we got landing. Okay, something is off. It's so dark here. Did I land? Oh, this must be landing in Istanbul? Shoot, I can't read that. This might be part of the layover. Okay. Which means what? What does that mean? I probably need to put this closer up. Okay, you know what? That's a task for later. Point is, flight shots, landing in Ulaanbaatar. Then, quick half day, what did I do when I first landed? Not much, besides just kind of do a boring tour type style. Then we took the next flight, landed in Olgi, met the crew, got in the van, introduced the gear that I'm using, then road shots, pit stop for the camels, maybe pit stop for just a coffee break or tea break, might remove it. And then next in order should be not this, but close enough. Like we should then be showing arriving at my homestay, which is, tell me I have some clips from it. Maybe I'll use a clip like if I have some normal shots where you're just kind of like showing the place I'm staying. So this could work actually. So I might show something like this to be like, okay, we finished driving. I think it was like 4 hours. And then here we are at my headquarters for the next, I think it was like 2 weeks. So this should maybe go up here somewhere. Let's color code these bad boys now. Teal, why not? All right. So all this work that I'm doing was all just to lead up to organizing clips for the very first chapter, essentially, or so of clips. I still have all of this to go before we finish the first part of my workflow, which is sorting, organizing, filtering through relevant clips. Next phase will be kind of doing a secondary filtering of all the clips. I think a third step after I do that would be starting to actually cut down the clips. So I would start taking any of these clips, and then if there are moments that are visibly like unusable, let's say the shot is completely out of focus or it's very shaky, I would start cutting those parts out of the sections that have been kind of made the test, let's say. After that, I think probably the clips I'll leave untouched for a little bit. The next step is going to be me starting to think through the chapters. I'm going to start thinking through like, okay, as a story, what makes sense in terms of chapter 1 story leading to 2, 3, 4, etc. I need to brainstorm that a bit and think about the formatting. That might be done off camera because, I don't know, it'll just be me staring blankly at the camera as I'm thinking in my head. I guess I can voice it out loud. But once I kind of come to a point where I've either decided this is going to be one video, or if it needs to be separated into multiple videos, then I can drill into the next step, which is keep refining the chapters and what video clips to show for each chapter. What comes after that? Probably I will then start working on the script. I don't know, it's been different each time because I'm so new to this essentially, but either I will be working on a script to the side of this at the same time, or once all the chapters have been kind of finalized, then I will start the process of writing down the script. That'll be fun to share just because it's you know, it's a fun process. You'll see again how I build something from nothing. Once the script is done, I will... Which step do I do first? It kind of just depends if I hit sometimes I'll hit a wall in terms of feeling inspired or, you know, motivated to work. So whenever I take these breaks, some of my previous vlogs, I will take a music break where I will then go to one of the key steps where I need to start curating, sourcing potential soundtracks to use for the vlog. It's actually fun for me because I don't know if it's like considered a neglected step, but I put a lot of thought into what soundtracks to use. I put a lot of thought in terms of synchronizing key moments in the soundtrack with key moments in the footage or in what I say. So in the past, it's taken anywhere from like 1 to 3 days of just listening to music that I can use. Every time I find a potential music, I bookmark it, I put it into a folder, and then eventually I have a whole list of potential soundtracks I can use, which then I will take further into the next step of actually applying it to the timeline, trying to now map and clip and cut the video sections to fit the music. I don't know what's considered best practice. This is just what works for me, but I like to map footage to the music as opposed to mapping the music to the footage, if that makes sense. Like, I'm more likely to want to take a soundtrack that I really enjoy and then find the clips that makes that music more enjoyable. So I'd rather prefer cutting down and clipping and finding the right clips to use in that order, if that makes sense. It's worked for me in the past. We'll try it out for this video as well. And if it doesn't work, whatever. I'm open to trying different ways to capture the moments. So, for instance, actually, before I'm using DaVinci Resolve. This is kind of how I order all my clips and everything. I don't know if it's visible, but I have a folder for audio. So let's say I create a folder in here called Potential Soundtracks. Now, I do know, because I've done this a while back, I have a few different sound subscriptions that I have, like Epidemic Sounds, Artlist, and Lens Distortions are my 3 top ones. I love Lens Distortions, by the way. I think they're my favorite to actually create content with, as of now, when it comes to like the really cinematic stuff. Let me see if I can show what their page looks like, and we'll play some clips or some of their soundtracks. They just happen to have really good cinematic soundtracks and sound effects and all that. What do I mean? Okay, for instance, this is lens distortions. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. They don't even have like a code that I could plug or shout out, but I love them very much so. Okay, this is a new album that they created, and let's just check out some of their songs. Super, like, I don't know, for me, these work really well for the types of content that I create. I've used them for a number of my actual content that I've created. So for instance, this was through lens distortion. A lot of these like wildlife stuff that I've been doing. Most of this is like lens distortion videos or music. So apparently this album just came out. They did like a little teaser where there's only a couple of them available. So I'm actually excited to listen through this. So anyways, this is a step that I would do is I'd go through any of the subscriptions that I have for like copyright free music. I would spend the time to listen to each one, kind of imagine in my head, can this work for the video I'm trying to create? And if I have those kind of aha moments or whatever, then I will download it. I put it into a playlist to kind of keep filtering through later. 1000% I want to go through all this and end up using some of these in my future videos. Okay, so as an example here, this is like a contender, right? So I'm not like committing to it, but this could be something where as I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, in my mind, I can imagine I use this for the opening trailer for my Mongolia video, where maybe I'm adding some voiceover. Let me turn down the volume a bit. So it could be like, okay, there's some, let's just start it earlier. Some kind of whatever scene I'm showing, a little bit of voiceover as I explain what we're about to see. And as the music builds up, the volume hits. And then here would be the montage. So I would just like start throwing a bunch of the best highlights of my upcoming montage or my Mongolia trip with this music. Maybe I'm still adding a bit of voiceover. Blah, 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 saying this. We're about to see this adventure. Go on this thing. Blah, blah. And if I can either cut some of the middle section out, or if the duration is short enough that it works for the trailer so that it reaches the climax, you know, let's see how this climax is. Yeah, so like here where then it drops down, this would be where the title, I would show the title of my video, and then we get right into the video. So anyways, this is an example of what I would be doing is I just spend like a full dedicated day listening to all the potential soundtracks, you know, put into playlists, put it into a potential list, and then start playing with my actual timeline, and then start cutting up the video clips to fit that music. So that'll be a whole process I'll spend a few days on. And then I need to actually record myself doing the dialogue, the voiceovers of the script. So that will happen off camera just because I'm assuming I'll have to do this off camera. Since I'll need to use the mics in a certain way. Actually, I don't know. Technically, it could happen on camera, but that's probably even the most boring or the most awkward shots for me, because it'll be me having to keep saying the same words over and over again, and I'm not like, this does not come natural for me to to kind of like do the talking portion of these YouTube videos. But anyways, that will be a major step, obviously. And once I have the audio recorded, I slap it back into my timeline, and then keep condensing, and yeah, I've got a 2-week time window I've given myself to finish this video. Ideally, I can finish it obviously sooner, but I did want to kind of time this in tandem with me doing my live streams. You know, like I said, this is my very first live stream. I'm going to keep doing this because why not? I have all this. Oh, hi. Sorry, I missed some message here. I am not from China. I am actually from Korea, but also I was born and raised in the States. Apologies if there's annoying music in the background. I'm just playing whatever copyright-free music there is available on the YouTube. And then also, if you're talking about the music just now, these are just potential music that I'm looking at for my upcoming video. But yeah, so like I said, this is my first stream. I wanted to test everything in terms of the tech required to do streams, the hardware, software, all the plugins, you know, what works, what doesn't. But yeah, I just figured, look, I've gone full-time, full headfirst into being a content creator. Why not do the deep end plunge in kind of fully embrace it by testing out live streams? Question is, can I make this entertaining? That's a big question. But this will not be a stream for everyone. I'm not a video gamer. I don't create content like that necessarily. My whole thing is I want to create content in terms of sharing stories from my travels. So everything you'll see on my streams are footages that I've captured and recorded that were from various trips all around the world. So at this point, I've been to, I want to say, something like 70-ish countries. And it's all just, it was meant for just to be personal trips. I wanted to keep exploring the world. It's only been a couple of years, less than that I've turned this into a professional thing where not only do I create content to share the best of the world with the rest of the world through my professional content, YouTube, social media, but also in terms of bringing people with me on these trips. So running tours, traveling to the cool locations, and hopefully sharing these experiences with other people. And that's the whole point. Everything you'll see on my live streams are footages that I've captured from these trips. All of this is from the past year and a half. That's when I started actually filming things the way you're seeing it and in a way that I want to turn into content. So that is what I'll be sharing on live streams, the whole process as I start editing this into a potential video. Other types of content I'll probably do is not necessarily just this vlog. I need to work on other content. Let's say, for instance, content that I want to post for Instagram or for YouTube Shorts. So taking any number of my shorter content clips that I've created and finding ways to quickly, within one day, turning it into something I can post on my social media channels. So that's kind of the thought process right now, is just sharing those moments. And then hopefully if I have an audience of people who are interested enough to keep listening to me, it's also, I want to share my knowledge when it comes to everything from how do I travel. So like, what do I, it could be anything. How do I travel? What's in my backpack? What do I pack? What are the do's and don'ts of most locations? Or how do I create like a to-do list? What are the worst experiences that I've had? So, you know, what to avoid, let's say. Sharing also, what are the camera gear? How do I shoot? You know, what are the settings on my camera? How do I edit any of these photos and videos? So for instance, I didn't get to share any of that here, but let me open up Lightroom. I told you guys, I started as a photographer. So it was a hobby, passion project, but ultimately it became something I became more professional at. And then now I'm tied up with Nikon and I run workshops. I also create, you know, these types of hopefully enjoyable footages and photos. But yeah, I started as a photographer. So I would also be sharing me editing my photos. So you guys can also see how do I turn a raw photo into a final product. So for an example, this is a photo I posted recently to go with my Instagram reel, but I wonder if I can show you guys the before and after. I don't know if I have it on this one. Yeah, so this is the original raw shot, right? So straight from the camera as my camera captured it raw. And then this is after I've edited everything in a certain style. So the goal would be, I'd be sharing with you guys, how do I go from this original content to, let's see if I can full screen it a bit better. How do I go from this to this? And if you guys have questions, my goal is I'll be like sharing everything. Like if any questions you have about how do I edit, how do I even, what's my workflow for going through all these photos? You know, same thing. Here's the before, and then here's my after shots. So yeah, that's all the goal of my live streams, sharing my knowledge, how I do what I do, what photo editing software do I use, what video editing, what camera, you know, what camera gear, features, settings, all of that is up for grabs. And yeah, and maybe I'll start doing some like dedicated live streams just around like Q&As and tutorials. That is a thought process. Like maybe I'll bring this over to my Instagram followers, or even like I said, I work with Nikon, so maybe I'll run a workshop for them, but do a like an online live workshop. And so that will be a bit more that'll be a bit more sanitized and thought out. So here I'm just kind of going off the cuff, but that one, it might be like presentation material, like actual outline of, you know, what's going to be covered. But yeah, all of that is my goal. I just want to share places all around the world, how I captured it, hopefully inspire you guys, anyone, to also travel and be content creators, photographers, videographers. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but it's just something, Chris, I watch a bit of, you know, YouTube lives, or not necessarily Twitch, but like I see like live streamers, and I don't necessarily see a category for someone like me where, you know, like I'm not playing video games, I'm not talking politics or doing like kind of like IRL streams as of now. But it's something where I figured it could be of interest to some people, and why not try to create a niche? So that's what you're seeing now. This is me, day one, starting to try to create a niche of this type of live stream content. And who knows, maybe enough people will be interested in it. If so, well, I appreciate it. I'm glad some people found whatever I'm doing and sharing of interest. But yeah, then this is something I can keep polishing and refining in a way that will be more valuable for you guys. But yeah. So here I'm just kind of going through my Lightroom. So Lightroom is what I use for all my photo editing. Occasionally I'll use Photoshop if there are like more, you know, specific things I need to do. But generally speaking, Lightroom is my go-to. And it's what I use to edit everything I've ever created, all my professional shots. It's all from Lightroom. So this is something I'll be doing on streams as well. So for instance, most likely in terms of, as I think about what's top of mind, I would probably be going back and forth between editing the Mongolia video, but then also jumping into the photos, because I do need to also edit photos, because I like to intersperse the photos with the video, or at least integrate the photos, or at least my top photos, into the video vlog that will go onto YouTube. So as an example, let's go to 2024 Mongolia. All right, so these are all the photos I took from that Mongolia trip. So I've already kind of done a bit of the process where I've enhanced some of the photos. I use a star rating system to keep going through each filtering phase. But right now I haven't really edited most of the photos, so it's still largely untouched. But you can see all these photos were from this particular trip that I'm making a video on. And I need to go through each of these photos and start editing them, turning it into some of my best photos, let's say. So you can see here, same trip, just the photos that I took. So this is like, for instance, let's jump back to that. You saw the horse. Is it right here? Yeah. So this is the same moment, essentially. So where we have the video files and the video clips of these, again, I don't know what, I think on camera I called them fillies, But these young horses, foals? I don't know. Young horses, these juvenile horses, I have the video clips of them. Like this moment here. But in addition to the actual video footage, obviously I have photos as well. So this will be fun. I love showing the behind the scenes, the creation of this. So as we go from before and afters, so how do I take a photo like this? What are the steps I do to actually go to a final product? On the left, you see a lot of these presets that I've already created, which speeds up the process for me. So sometimes I'll show you guys based on the sped up filters that I've already created. Sometimes I'll actually just build from scratch so you guys can see what that looks like. But yeah, this is a process that I go through to show you guys how do I take a raw photo, improve upon it. I'm just doing some very, very rough cut, fast and loose type of editing just to show you guys what I'm talking about. You know, everything from also like, okay, if this is going to be for YouTube, then I like to show this in 16:9. So this will be a little off center, but that's all the room I have. What should I do? I need to brighten up the subjects a bit more. And depending on the shot, this one I might make it feel a bit more dramatic, just given the scene is also somewhat dramatic. You got these horses covered in snow and a very, very snowy backdrop. I tend to like this kind of faded look, maybe not to this extent. Or I might go with a more like a wintry tone. So we'll see. One of the issues with this photo, I say issues, there's no ever real issues, but you can see the horse on the left is very, very sharp. Horse on the right is fairly blurry. That's because the horses weren't necessarily lined up evenly. This horse was a little bit like a few steps behind this one. And I was shooting at 2.8, I believe. Yeah, so I was shooting at f2.8 aperture, which the depth of field in that sense is fairly shallow. And all that means is what's considered in focus is a very, very shallow depth. In this case, it's what leads to this horse being very, very sharp, the face of it, but this one's a bit blurry. It's a stylistic thing. I love shooting at 2.8 or whatever is the lowest number possible based on your camera lens. But the trade-off is obviously less of your image can potentially be in focus. So anyways, just something to keep in mind as I'll edit this one further. But I do love this one. So there's you know what? There's a chance where I'll do, this is like I love the editing process. You just kind of discover things as you go. There's a chance I might do an edit of this horse in a way where I completely crop out the secondary horse and just focus on the first one. So it could be something like this where maybe I'll push the horse a little bit more to the center, but generally speaking, it'll be like just a solo subject shot, like a little portraiture. And in this case, this one's a 16:9 because usually for YouTube, I'll put this as a montage within the video. But it's kind of cool. I kind of like how this one looks like this. But I might do a version, let's say if I end up posting a reel, maybe I need a 16:9 as the banner image. And if it doesn't work properly, sometimes what I'll do is this is where I'll take it to Photoshop or even within Lightroom, and I can just mask away, let's say this thing here. Like, obviously it doesn't look nice. So I think in Lightroom, let's see, they have all these new tools, some of which I haven't used yet. But generally speaking, there are tools where I can mask unnecessary or unwanted things. So let's say in this case, I just want to remove that. And let's see how good Lightroom is for this. Okay, this one's not the best. Yeah, because obviously it didn't really mask it and make it the same background color. But also this was a very crude example I did. As I focus on each photo, I would spend more time to figure out what's the best way to remove this. So you can do these clone stamps to just kind of like mirror what's in the background and just wipe this away. It's not part of what I want to share now anyways, but it's just to kind of give you a gist of like how I might edit this photo. So this might be something I do for like a social media, or like I said, I might even crop in further and just be like, yeah, this is great. Cool image. Kind of tells a story on its own just because of the snow kind of caking on the face, a little bit of the wind that you can see on the mane. It's a cute subject already. It's a fluffy young horse. So this would be something that you guys will be able to see in real time. So on the streams, I'll just be going through any number of my photos as I go through the editing process, and as I have light bulb moments, you'll actually see how I edit this to its final form, and then you'll, when I post it online, maybe it's of interest to you guys, but you're like, oh yeah, I got to see him actually create this piece of content. So that's kind of the goal. I just want to keep sharing any part of my process. So yep, these are all the photos. This is what you guys will be seeing in the next 2 weeks as I just fully dedicate every day going on stream, working on my Mongolia travel vlog. You will get to see all of these photos, all the videos, filtering, editing, refining into its final form. After, let's say if I follow my deadline, let's say by the end of 2 weeks, I've finished this, I've published, I've posted my YouTube video and all of that. The work's not done. After Mongolia, I have, I think, still around 11 different countries that I've traveled to in the past year and a half that I haven't shared the content for yet. What do I mean by that? So this trip was February of 2024, Mongolia, for I think like 2 weeks. After this trip, I had a trip to Sri Lanka. This was a trip that I organized with Nikon for like a photography workshop. So we did a bit of wildlife. We did a little bit of kind of like cultural shots. That was March of 2024. April of 2024, I did, I think it was about 10 days in Uganda again, where I took a group of 3 photographers with me. So this is a tour that I organized. 3 people joined me on this tour, and I took them to see the chimpanzees and to a different national park for lions and elephants and leopards and so on. So that's another trip, right? So what am I on? So I mentioned Sri Lanka, Uganda in April. May, I did a full month in Zimbabwe, and that was to 3 different locations, national parks, the horse ranch that I was referencing. So that's going to be fun content, and you guys will watch me on live streams as I go through that. Then after May of 2024, in June, that content I've already created. I went on a trip for 2 weeks with a large YouTuber, so that content's already done. So then in July, I spent a full month in Vietnam. I went with a friend of mine, she's an amazing photographer. She does mostly drone content, but we spent a full month exploring Vietnam, and that's really cool footage as well. So I haven't really gone through any of that. That's less wildlife. That was more like cultural, city life, nature, stuff like that. So we'll be spending live stream going and editing and building the content from that. Next trip was November 2024. I went back to Mongolia and I took a client with me. So I'll be able to share what that trip looked like. December, I took a honeymoon couple to 2 different destinations, Zimbabwe and Uganda. And so, yeah, that was December 2024 up until January 2024, where I have 2 weeks worth of content of mostly wildlife and nature and just really epic shots from my trip where I took these honeymoon couple to see the world. It was their first time in Africa. I was very blessed to be able to take them. Then in January 2025, this year, I went to 2 different destinations, maybe 3. I spent 5-6 days in Vietnam for another Nikon trip where I organized it, and we brought, I think, about a dozen people with us. Then I went to Colombia for about 2 weeks. I was scouting Colombia to potentially bring tours there, and so I have content from that one. Then in February, I went to Hokkaido, Japan. I took 3 people with me. That was my first time going there as well, but they trusted me enough to go on this trip. So yeah, 2 weeks in Japan. And then I had a trip to Tanzania. So you get the point. I have over 10 different countries, 70 to 100 terabytes worth of footages, and thousands of photos from this past year and a half. Let's call it a year of traveling. So I have plenty of content that I will need to go through on these live streams. So hopefully it's something you guys will find interesting. And as I keep doing these streams, hopefully as I grow an audience and as I get better at whatever this is, yeah, it'll just be a journey. And yeah, it'll be something where you guys can get to see behind the scenes of how does a YouTuber, how does an Instagrammer, how does a travel content creator actually create the content. I'm literally opening it up. I'm showing every aspect of how I do that. And so, you know, it'll be hopefully a learning process for some of you. It'll be entertainment for others of you. It'll just be something that I add to my repertoire. And selfishly as well for me, as I keep doing this, you know, I believe all of these will be recorded and published as VODs. And as I continue to create YouTube videos, you know, let's say if I'm sharing my screen as I was editing or creating a piece of content, that's something I can also work into future videos or whatever I need to on social media. So yeah, I think it's it'll be a win-win. With all of that said, it is now 10 o'clock my time over here. I haven't eaten all day, so I am going to call an end to this. I appreciate everyone who joined in at various points, the few of you who have stuck around. Yeah, let me know. Just message me, DMs, any methods, you know, free reign for me. Let me know things that you would suggest for me, things that didn't work or what worked well. I'm here to keep improving this and iterate off of it. I appreciate anyone who stood by any technical issues. I need to rewatch parts of this myself to figure out, did this actually properly stream to YouTube, Twitch, and Kick? I'm using something called Restream and Streamlabs, and I don't know. It's just a whole jumbled mess in my mind. So hopefully it's all working properly. And then, yeah, we're just going to keep improving from there. I apologize if I missed chats in real time, just because I didn't have the window open to see the chat. And I did get some notifications. I appreciate Will for the donation as well. I do appreciate that. I was not expecting that on the first stream, so appreciate it. I still need to figure out, like, you know, when that alert comes in, how can I actually see people who've donated properly so I don't miss out on various moments. So a lot to keep ironing out, but with that said, thank you guys for sticking with me on my first stream, and I will continue this tomorrow and the day after, and we'll just keep making progress on what you guys saw here of this 9 hours worth of footages and thousands of photos. We're gonna eventually, in 2 weeks time, see it shape and mold into something super cool. That I will promise and guarantee you guys, it will be super cool, whatever the final form is. I'm at least confident enough in my skills to go that far. With that said, I'm gonna give a final. Oh, this is my second cat. This is Kimbap. This little guy, actually, he's not so little. He has lost weight because I had to put him on a diet because he's a little bit of a chubster. Kimbap is a good boy. Yeah, I think he's about 3 years old, something like that. Let's point the camera at you. Little buddy. Yeah, he's adorable. Very, very fluffy. Sheds way too much for my liking, but, you know, what can you do? So like I said, I have 2 cats. So I set up a camera because one of them likes to chill here, and there's another cat bed behind over there. And if there's a moment where I think it's possible to take a break or show these guys, I will. They are adorable. They make my life entertaining, especially when I'm spending almost 24/7 in my apartment when I'm not traveling, working on these videos. So yeah, this is kimbap. Kimbap is my favorite food. There's no relations with why it's a cat's name, but if I had a ginger cat, I would have named them Kimchi, but kimbap, because he was a little bit grayish and I don't know, doesn't really look like a kimbap or whatever. But yeah, kimbap. And Nala I showed earlier, she's just wandering around right now. But yeah, it's the three of us. Three of us will be creating content going forward. I appreciate everyone who's stuck around. I think everything in terms of the tech is working decently here. So for instance, can I hit the second camera and will it work? Okay, perfect. Okay, so then I have the camera built into this studio display that I've got. So this will just, listen, as I go, the fact that I have cameras, I can add more cameras as well. I am a photographer, but for now I figure this is a decent number that I can work with. So yeah, we'll just play around with this as we go, as I create different types of content. But otherwise, we're back here. This is headquarters. This is where I will be. This is where you'll find me every day as I start this new journey, this new chapter. Okay, well, guys, I appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow whenever I wake up and I'm ready to start working. Apologies, I don't really have a schedule yet, so we'll work all that out in the future. With that said, I don't really have a closing video. I'll work on that next. So thanks so much, guys, and I appreciate it. And I will end it with, let's end it with one of these. I'll go back to the starting student. Okay, I do need to create another video scene then, which will be like a going away type thing. But for now, let's just play this. So what were my highlights of Uganda? I'll start with the wildlife. The most obvious, but also the most exhilarating, are the mountain gorillas in Bwindi Impenetrable Forest. Nothing quite matches the rush you feel when after trekking deep within the dense jungle, you come face to face with a silverback and his family. Memorable moments for me included basically any time the silverback moved, given its imposing features, the comical antics of a playful baby gorilla learning how to climb, and a heart-stopping moment as a mother gorilla pushed past me to get to her children. Chimpanzees, often overshadowed by their larger cousins, offer equally thrilling encounters at a fraction of the cost. Their animated antics and vocal expressions fill the forest with chaotic life, providing a stark contrast to the more subdued gorillas. The craziest encounter I had was on a recent group tour that I organized, as an agitated chimp manhandled a nearby tree before bum rushing between me and one of my guests. While I'm proud that I kept my cool, nothing beats the casual pose of my guest, Dennis, in that moment. The life of a true photographer. Then there's the mysterious shoebill stork in the vast swamps of Mabamba. Facing this prehistoric bird was like